Okay, Council President, we're going to be on in about 30 seconds. I'll give you the cue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Council President, we're now live.
I'm ready to go. Thank you very much. We're going to get started. We will now reconvene this morning's hearing. Mr. Stitt, before we start, can you please call a roll to take attendance? And members that are in attendance, just please indicate by saying present. Add a word or two to make sure that your image is displayed. Mr. Stitt?
Councilmember Bass?
I am present. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Brooks?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Councilmember Dom? Councilmember Gauthier? Councilmember Gilmore Richardson?
Good afternoon. I'm here. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Green?
Good afternoon, Council President, Mr. Stitt, Council colleagues. Looking forward for today's hearing.
Councilmember Gim?
Present, and I just want to express my gratitude to all members of the public who patiently are here to testify. We'll be listening.
Afternoon.
Councilmember Heenan? Councilmember Johnson? Councilmember Jones? Councilmember O?
Good afternoon. I'm present.
Afternoon.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Councilmember Parker? Councilmember Kiona Sanchez?
Good afternoon. I am here.
Oh, hi. This is Councilmember Gaudier. I'm here. I'm so sorry.
No worries, Councilwoman. I have you marked down as present.
Okay, wonderful.
Councilmember Squilla?
Good afternoon, everyone. Looking forward to hearing the public comment and testimony.
Good afternoon.
Councilmember Thomas?
Good afternoon, Council President. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Happy to be here and listen to our public comment.
Afternoon.
And Council President Clark?
All right. We're going to get started. Thank you. We will now resume the public hearing and begin taking testimony from the public on the FY21 budget and 5-year plan. But before proceeding, however, I will lay a few ground rules on how we will proceed with public testimony this afternoon. We are here today to hear from you about the city's proposed operating and capital budgets and proposed tax revenue measures. Due to the COVID-19 emergency, we have implemented special procedures with respect to public testimony. These were advertised when we posted on Council's website and sent out in a press release. Speakers interested in giving testimony were asked to call or email by 3 p.m. Yesterday so that they can take the technical steps necessary to provide an opportunity for public comment in a virtual environment. We received an unprecedented number of requests to testify, more than 500, in fact. That was more than we could accommodate, especially given the current virtual environment that the COVID-19 pandemic has forced council to use. So here's what we have done to be as fair as possible. The first 60 people who requested to testify will have an opportunity to do so. In addition, 30 more people were randomly selected by lottery from everyone else who submitted a request to testify by the deadline. We also encourage everyone who asked to testify to submit written testimony to budget hearings at phila.gov to ensure that their voice is part of the permanent public record, and any testimony submitted that way will be added to the record in this particular hearing. The 90 people who will have an opportunity to speak today have all been notified ahead of time. To ensure that is an opportunity for all 90 of you to be heard, certain ground rules have been established as follows. Your testimony should be about the city's proposed operating and capital budget and proposed revenue. At approximately 3 p.m., a little late, we apologize. You will be asked to make sure that your phone is muted until it is your turn to speak to eliminate any background noise that may impede any individual's ability to be heard. Once your name is called, please unmute your phone by pressing *6 on your phone. You will then have 2 minutes to the 2-minute limit. You will hear a single bell ring when you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks, and then when I think 4 or 5 rings of the bell, it will be your time to conclude your remarks. I want to thank you for your anticipated cooperation on that. Once you ask to begin your testimony, you will hear the timer, as I referenced earlier. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks. At that time, please mute your phone and stay on the line until all 20 people in your group have testified to eliminate the sign of you getting offline. After each group of 20 individuals has testified, we will take a short break to line up the next group, and the final group will consist of 10 persons. I would ask Mr. Stitt to please read the name of our first speaker.
Jermaine Ingram, followed by Elizabeth Grimaldi, followed by Liz Spungen.
Thank you, Mr. Stitt. Connected and ready to proceed? Ms. Ingram? Hello? I think 4 or 5 rings of the bell, it will be your time to conclude your remarks. Jermaine Ingram? Is Jermaine Ingram on the line?
Hello.
Jermaine Ingram?
Hello. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm on.
You on? Okay. Just please just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. And you'll have 2 minutes to testify.
I am Jermaine Ingram. A few years ago, internationally celebrated sculptor Ann Hamilton came to Philadelphia to create a massive immersive installation called Habitus at Pier 9 on Delaware Avenue. Hamilton states that one key to her life as an artist and citizen is embracing not knowing. She says that not knowing isn't ignorance. It involves work and research. Not knowing is a permissive and rigorous willingness to trust, leaving knowing in suspension, trusting in possibility. In these times of stupefying claims to certainty, such as when national leaders pronounce that military-backed domination of our streets is the required response to long overdue protests of eons of police brutality. In these times, our capacity to embrace a stance of not knowing is essential to addressing the increasingly complex challenges we face. Artists are experts at creating new possibilities from a posture of not knowing. Artists are practiced in embracing the surprises and innovations that emerge from interdependence and unpredictability. Now is the time. Now is not the time to hobble our artistic resources. Now is the time to engage artists and the artistic process as never before in helping to envision and shape the new and uncertain civic terrains that we are all inescapably moving toward. We need artists to amplify the stories of our neighbors, to enlist artists to help de-escalate civic strife and transform conflict. Engage community artists as key strategists and problem solvers as we envision reopening our schools. Embed artists in our healthcare and social service systems to help raise the measure of deep listening and empathy. Invite artists into government agencies to shake up linear approaches to policy and practice. Artists are primed to be the stewards of our public spaces, keeping us attuned to the collective memories and civic lessons that reside there. We can't afford to abandon the infrastructure that is critical to making Philadelphia's arts and culture community so rich in diversity, talent, creativity, innovation, and dedication to the vitality and vibrancy of our city. Rather, we need to muster and invest in the arts and culture sector, a community that is uniquely equipped to see possibilities and launch discoveries in the midst of this sustained uncertainty. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next person.
Elizabeth Grimaldi, followed by Liz Spungen. If your name is called after, if the preceding person is done, then the next person can unmute their phone and just state their name and proceed with their testimony.
Thank you. This is Liz Grimaldi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Council President Clark and members of Council. I'm Liz Grimaldi, and I'm here to offer testimony specifically against the closure of the Office of the Arts, the defunding of the African American Museum, and the elimination of the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, along with the hundreds of neighborhood organizations that it sustains. Our budget is a roadmap of our priorities as people and as a city. Mayor Kenny's proposed budget does not describe the city I wish to live in. Not only is it inequitable, especially for children and older adults, but it undercuts the resources and creative thinking we need to overcome this crisis before us. I moved to Philadelphia from Hong Kong in 1999, and I've come to love this city as my home. I've been executive director of 3 cultural organizations in neighborhoods across Philadelphia, in Chinatown North, at the Village in North Philadelphia, and currently in Bella Vista, where I'm the director of Fleischer Art Memorial, a community anchor bringing access to art to over 20,000 people each year. I can tell you about Fleischer and its history as the oldest community art organization in the country, but many of you already know our work. Councilmember Gim knows well our contributions to public school education. Councilmember O visited last fall to honor our advisory committee of immigrant business owners and residents. And Councilmember Squilla even serves on our board as an enthusiastic and attentive member of nearly 6 years. After 17 years, 2 kids, and a few gray hairs, I'm honored to consider you all partners in realizing a shared vision for our city. But when I was new to Philadelphia, it was the Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy that invited me to the table at City Hall to learn about our city's issues. And it is this office that helps bring the voices of countless citizens and grassroots organizations across the city to find creative solutions to our most pressing challenges. I could tell you about how the arts contributes to recovery and public confidence from national case studies, and I'm counting on my colleagues to tell you about the impact of the arts on jobs and the economy. But knowing how deeply you care about Philly, I'm speaking from the heart and share with you what keeps me up at night, concerns and solutions I believe matter to you. First, what can we do together to keep children engaged in learning? Last week, the Department of Human Services called us to ask our help with the 3,000 children in the 150 summer programs in rec centers across the city. Right now, our teaching artists are creating 240 fun recorded lessons. We're distributing 4,000 summer art care kits and learning materials through food distribution sites. Through art, we are helping children to be resilient and to stay engaged with learning. Like Fleischer, artists and organizations in every district are fighting, despite little or no resources, to help the people of Philadelphia recover. And now is the time for the city to double down on artists and teachers, not strip them of funds and discredit their value. Now is the time to invest in children, in our elders, and those who have been hit hardest and who are hurting the most. Now is not the time to disinvite creative thinkers and pull the rug out from hundreds of art groups that bring vibrancy and hope to our city every day. And now is certainly not the time to increase funding to broken systems that oppress people. We have allowed the criminal justice system to replace and displace a whole host of public institutions. It is time to undo the shift, to refocus public spending on community infrastructures that build trust and that are the real foundation of everyday resilience. Education, housing, libraries, and art and culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Liz Spungen, followed by Amy Potzik, followed by Jenny Schenker. Again, if you're second or third after the person before you goes, please just unmute your mic, state your name for the record, and proceed with your testimony.
This is Elizabeth Spungen. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed. State your name. Please proceed.
Thank you for allowing me to speak in reference to bill numbers 200287 and 200307. I am Elizabeth Spungen, a lifelong Philadelphian and the executive director of the Print Center, a visual arts nonprofit dedicated to the democratic media of photography and print. Since 1915, we have served the city and have prioritized equity and access. We provide exhibitions as well as long-term residencies in 20 high school classrooms each year in districts across the city. The COVID pandemic has had a devastating impact on arts and culture. The arts are the highest expression of our humanity and are needed now more than ever. In challenging times, they bring inspiration, hope, and solace. Arts and culture is also a $4 billion economic engine, which is a remarkable return for the city's investment of $4 million. Our community does extraordinary work and brings enormous benefit with relatively minor financial support. The proposed cut is minimal in the face of the projected deficit and is not logical. Arts and culture are the way back to a thriving city. People returning for cultural activity will engage all sectors of the economy. Crippling arts and culture will significantly delay the city's recovery. I urge you to restore funding to the Philadelphia Cultural Fund and the Office for Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. Despite its benefits, arts and culture are always the first on the chopping block, and this must change. The brilliant, innovative thinkers that lead our community should be welcomed at the governing table. Instead of eliminating support, Philadelphia should have a cabinet-level arts position. The Philadelphia Cultural Fund is the lifeblood of the city's small organizations. Their impact is felt in every neighborhood. Eliminating PCF will devastate organizations like the Print Center that rely on the support to serve audiences and create equity and access. To remain the world-class city that National Geographic has recognized, we must maintain PCF and the OACCE. Mayor Kenny himself urged support for the arts in a letter to Congress. I urge you to start at home by rejecting the proposed cuts. Imagine how much more we could do to support our community if we were not always fighting to survive. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Amy Pottsick.
This is Amy Pottsick. Can you hear me?
Yes. Please proceed.
Thank you. I am Amy Pottsick, speaking as chair of the Art in City Hall Artistic Advisory Committee. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you today. I implore you to reconsider the proposed budget, which suggests eliminating the Office of Arts and Culture and Art in City Hall program. In the wake of COVID-19 and the events in our city over the past 2 weeks, it will be more important than ever to fund the arts programs that can help rebuild our city and build relationships that can sustain us. A budget is a moral document that reflects a society's values and priorities. Show that our city's leadership values humanity, strong communities, free speech, and human rights by supporting the arts and culture sector that fosters these ideals. Philadelphians value the arts because they make our city strong, unique, and diverse. Show them that you do too. The Art in City Hall program specifically is one of the most far-reaching, impactful, and accessible offerings in Philadelphia, with over 100,000 audience members, 1,700 artists, and 87 community partners in 2019 from every region of the city. All of this is accomplished by one exceptional staff member, 2 WIN, and a modest $5,000 operating budget. The program should be funded as it is one of the city's creative innovations for the arts and culture sector, which is a major force in the local economy, generating $4 billion annually and providing 55,000 jobs. I urge you to consider the positive impact of the arts and especially the Art in City Hall program. Eliminating it represents a short-term fix that will hinder long-term growth. Art in City Hall's value and impact cannot be overstated. Art in City Hall's value and impact cannot be overstated, and the need to reflect our highest values in our city's budget has never been more important. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Jenny Shanker, followed by Karen Hunter McLaughlin, followed by Teresa James. And again, if you are the second or third name called, after the first person preceding you, please feel free to unmute your mic, state your name for the record, and proceed. Jenny Shanker. Teresa James. Carmen Fabo San Miguel.
I'm sorry, this is Karen Hunter McLaughlin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Thank you. Sorry. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with City Council today. My name is Karen Hunter McLaughlin, and I'm here to testify regarding Ordinance 200287, Resolution 200307. I am a lifelong Philadelphia artist and lead member of Artessa Alliance, a Greater Philadelphia Area Women's Artist Collective. On behalf of myself and my fellow member artists, I'd like to cast a strong vote against the mayor's proposed budget, which includes complete elimination of funding for the Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy, Art in City Hall, and the Philadelphia Cultural Fund. Many of our member artists alliance have benefited from these programs, but I'm here today to appeal to the city's sense of commerce and common sense. When we eventually return to the vibrant city Philadelphia was before the COVID-19 crisis, what will be the draw to come here and spend? Our city has built a reputation on being a vital hub of the East Coast of culture, arts, and creative commerce. Theater, music, museums, and art are what draw global conferences here. People and businesses need a real reason to return for tourism and for trade. It's a known fact that arts creates jobs, drives the marketplace, and contributes to quality of life. Complete elimination will make it impossible for these important programs to recover when the budget becomes easier to manage. In 2017, Americans for the Arts conducted their fifth study of the impact of nonprofit arts and culture industry on the economy. The study showed that contributions of the arts industry in diverse communities and regions across the country generated billions of dollars of economic activity. Much of this income is generated in events-related expenditures while supporting millions of jobs, along with the revenue generated for local, state, and federal governments. To quote the Americans for the Arts, by every measure, these results are impressive. This study puts to rest the misconception that communities support arts and culture at the expense of local economic development. In fact, communities are investing in an industry that supports jobs, creates government revenue, and is the cornerstone of tourism. The Arts and Economic Prosperity 5 study shows conclusively that arts nationally as well as locally means that arts means business. Lastly, we applaud those city council members who recently signed a letter outlining improved independent oversight of the police department, including decreases in police funding. We encourage the mayor to reallocate some of those savings to fund the arts programs that are set for elimination. Art heals. Please let Philadelphia remain the shining beacon that it has become by continuing to support this important economic and community-minded sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Teresa James or Carmen Fibo San Miguel on the line. And reminder to all callers, you must press *6 to unmute yourself. You must press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Jenny Schenker. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed with your testimony.
Okay. Sorry, I was supposed to testify. Earlier. Let me just pull up my thing. So, thank you for this opportunity to testify. When I saw the mayor's budget, I was really afraid for the future of this city. Though this pandemic has created a need for a new budget, it really felt like a betrayal of the people of Philadelphia to cut the arts, libraries, parks, and rec, and similar entities that serve our communities instead of generating needed resources from the people and corporations who really have a lot to give. When a city does not support public places and programs where people can learn, play, explore, and even just relax outside of their work or home, people are going to be out in the public sphere, and it's going to be one that lacks positive things to do. I learned what art can contribute to the city through projects I've done with mural arts at places like McKinley Elementary School, the Hartranft School, and at Rodriguez Library. And I've learned that these types of projects eliminate normalized negative activities in communities, and they reclaim important sites and make them livable again for residents. Most recently, I've been the Percent for Art artist for the Maplewood Mall revitalization in Germantown. But the mayor's budget has erased my confidence in the value of moving forward with the city with this project, unless if the Office of Arts and Culture and the Creative Economy is restored, and I mean fully restored. As a union person, I know that there's a plan to keep one person, but as a union person, I know that when one person is being asked to do 3 people's jobs, and those 3 people already have 4 people's jobs on their docket, that somebody's just being set up to fail. The city is a partner in these projects, and you're there to protect all of our interests. And right now, it just does not feel safe. So I am emphatically asking you to reconsider the funding of the Office of Arts and Culture and the Creative Economy, the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, Mural Arts, and the African American Museum in this budget. And I really hope that the past 9 or 10 days has helped us all to understand the urgent need for all of our citizens to feel safe and to feel represented in public places and in institutions of this city. The arts are not frivolous and unnecessary. They're a significant part of Philadelphia's infrastructure, and they are deeply woven into our civic spaces and our lives. Without this funding...
Ma'am, your time. When the bell goes off multiple times, that means your time's up. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Teresa James. Carmen Fabo San Miguel.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Please state your name and proceed with your testimony.
I'm Carmen Fabo San Miguel from Taller Puerto Riqueño. While I fully understand the city's unprecedented budget challenges, I would stress that since I came to Philadelphia from Puerto Rico in 1976, I have seen in our city grow to become one of America's greatest and most diverse cultural hubs. It is incomprehensible to those of us who have fought hard over 50 years to establish a visible, meaningful presence for the arts in city government that in one decision there will be no art office or art presence in city government. The relatively small short-term budget saving associated with the elimination of the Office of Arts and Culture and the Philadelphia Cultural Fund is more of a reflection of how art is so undervalued here rather than on the significance of those modest savings. On the other hand, the negative impact of these cuts will be felt in every community at all income levels and ethnicities by every citizen and every child for years to come. The economic impacts of the arts in Philadelphia are well documented and already mentioned. In addition, the Philadelphia Cultural Fund grant recipients alone represent expenditures of over $700 million. The Philadelphia Cultural Fund since '91 has awarded $51 million to the arts and cultural sector, and 47% of these grant recipients operate with budgets of less than $150,000. It would be advised that this amount of equitable economic activity that reaches every community in Philadelphia at this time of not only unprecedented economic downturn, but also of social and racial unrest is eliminated. The arts provide a powerful, transformative, healing, constructive, and unifying force. The city should follow the forward vision of President Roosevelt's federal arts project of the WPA during the Great Depression. The artistic, historical, social, and humanistic effects of these endeavors have influenced American art and culture to this day. Continuing to support the arts and the neighborhood programming will help the city achieve a successful recovery, as all of these things impact safety. Communities with greater access to the arts experience fewer acts of violence and fewer incidents of ethnic and racial harassment. Health, high cultural engagement in low-income neighborhoods results in lower rates of chronic illness and reductions in poverty without displacement. And well-being, neighborhood arts, strength, residents, connections with one another, and foster pride of place. The impact on arts education has already been mentioned. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony, ma'am.
Janie Blackwell. Deidre Krieger. Mondo Clayton.
Good afternoon. I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Armando S. Clayton for the record. Thank you, Mr. President and City Council, for giving me time to speak today. I would first like to thank Council President for all his work in the community and with the business sector. I am Armando S. Clayton II, current constituent of District 4, Councilman Curtis Jones District. I would first like to take the time to thank Mr. Mark Squilla and his office for staying in constant contact with me. Even though I'm not a constituent of his district, he and his office has embraced me. I have personally contacted the other 16 members of this council and the mayor for the last 5 years. I have been unsuccessful in receiving a return phone call or email. For the city to be of brotherly love, I feel relinquished by City Council as a whole. Today I will be talking about Bill numbers 285, 286, 291, and 292. Regarding Bills 285 and 286, I would like to stress more money for the Streets Department. The city-maintained streets are a hot mess and in need of some attention. I have been in contact with Mr. Stephen Lorenz and other city agencies. Without proper funding, the Streets Department the streets will still decay. Regarding Bill number 291, I do not support any tax increases on the residents or the non-residents. We as constituents are taxed enough with other local taxes in the city of Philadelphia. If needed, phase the wage tax down to 3% at a lower pace. Finally, regarding Bill number 292, I do not support any direct property tax increases on residents or businesses. In fact, I support a further increase of the homestead exemption. Moreover, I do not support an elimination of the discount for people who decide to pay their property taxes early. The city needs to increase their spending with the rate of inflation and control non-discretionary spending. I thank you for taking the time to hear my proposals today. I hope that we can come together and have a great budget for the 2021 season. And remember to do what is in the best interest for your district and for the city of Philadelphia. Thank you so much for your time. Please do continue to be safe.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Jennifer Coburn, followed by Barbara Silsey, followed by Hannah Sassaman. Jennifer Coburn.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. My name is Jen Coburn.
Proceed with your testimony.
Hi, this is Jen Coburn. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I am testifying today regarding the proposed elimination of the Office of Adult Education. Unlike Workforce Development and the Office of Arts and Culture, this 10-member staff has been completely eliminating from the city, eliminating literacy, eliminating opportunity for people with a criminal record, for people who have dropped out of high school, for people living in homelessness, for the most marginalized and vulnerable in our city to receive an education. As you know, the Office of Adult Education has been functioning since 1983, and only under the Kenney administration was it put under the Office of Workforce Development. I know demands are high right now and solutions are few, so here's my modest proposal. Just keep 1 or 2 staff members. That's all we are asking for. Make this an independent office to become a champion of adult literacy in our city. I ask you to consider what would happen to George Floyd if he was not arrested at all, if instead police were defunded, if he met with a community social worker that talked to him about jobs. I understand that he was unemployed as a result of the coronavirus crisis. What if he met with a social worker to talk about adult literacy and employment opportunities in his community? What kind of city would that be? We can make that city right now. Did you know that the average reading level in the Philadelphia Department of Prisons is 3rd grade? It is 3rd grade. Yet most of our education conversations are about those cute kids in the schools that the mayor loves to have photo ops with. We need programs that support adults and give them the opportunity to receive an education, to go to college, to build digital literacy. We wouldn't talk about making all of our schools into vocational institutions, and I don't understand why workforce is the same. So I ask you, please reinstate the Office of Adult Education, just 1 or 2 staff members. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Barbara Silsley? Barbara from the Philadelphia Culture.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, council members, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm Barbara Silsley, Executive Director of the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, and the Cultural Fund is the way the city supports the arts in Philly and has since 1994. And unfortunately, the proposed budget has zeroed out its funding for fiscal year 2021. While my voice is just one that you're hearing on the telephone, I want you to imagine hundreds of people beside me representing the 349 nonprofit arts organizations, 349 throughout the city that went through a rigorous review process and were awarded a grant in 2020. And those organizations serve over 12 million people a year. We believe the total elimination of funding for the Philadelphia Cultural Fund imperils the essential role that the arts play in the fabric of our city and does not reflect our city's shared values. The economic and social return on the city's financial investment in the Cultural Fund is immense. And while it might not be obvious to everyone, Philly's arts organizations are engaged in a myriad of vital issues, including accessibility, active military and veterans, aging, anti-blight, anti-violence, child development, drug addiction and recovery, economic revitalization, workforce development, environment, health, history and preservation, racial justice, homelessness and housing insecurity, LGBTQ, hunger and food insecurity, mental health, immigration and refugee settlement, and incarcerated populations and returning citizens. Eliminating the Cultural Fund will devastate organizations that are already struggling to survive and will deprive our communities of the services that the arts uniquely provide. When this pandemic is behind us, it will be the Cultural Fund grantees that provide Philadelphians with the essential outlets and tools for healing, creative expression, reflection, activism, celebration, and community building necessary for a thriving metropolis. I hope City Council will ensure that the Philadelphia Cultural Fund is maintained through this financial crisis. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Hannah Sassaman followed by Daryl Bundridge, followed by Patricia Phillips. Reminder to press star 6 to unmute your mics. Once the the preceding you is done, you may press star 6 and just state your name and proceed with your testimony.
Hi, my name is Hannah Sassaman, and I'm the Policy Director at the Movement Alliance Project, formerly Media Mobilizing Project, and I'm grateful for a chance to speak. We've been working for over 15 years in the city of Philadelphia to build a movement organizing at the intersection of race, inequality, and technology. We've been organizing to end mass incarceration and increase digital inclusion. And when we saw that the police department of the city of Philadelphia was receiving an increase over fiscal year 20 of $19 million, while programs, as the previous speaker noted, like the Office of Adult Education, Parks and Rec, libraries, an extraordinary host of anti-violence and community-based youth programs were all receiving cuts, we were deeply, deeply concerned. We are grateful that the City Council of the City of Philadelphia and the Mayor have taken some vital first steps with committing to not provide the police department with that increase. But we can be even braver right now and listen both to the people who have testified before me and to the thousands upon thousands of comments that you have received that say that we have one shot right now to replace over-policing in our communities with investment in the true services and supports that really keep us safe. Here in my neighborhood, there is a gentleman who goes all over our different homes. He tears up little bits of newspaper. He gets angry, and some people in my neighborhood respond to him by trying to call the police. This is a gentleman who needs help, who needs support. We need to divest from policing, to defund policing, and to take those resources and put them in community-based programs that send social workers, mental health supports, and resources rather than cops. I'm here, as are thousands of Philadelphians, to support you in this. We want to work to defund the police and to make sure that we have a Philadelphia that reflects the values that we hear in the streets. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Daryl Bundridge.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes. My name is Daryl Bundridge, and I serve as the proud executive director of City of Philadelphia. City applauds the commitment of the mayor and city council to address the educational inequities of our school system. And one of the best ways we believe, is to fund City Year with a $400,000 grant to enter 16 schools this year and serve 9,500 students. Now, why fund City Year? Well, because of our diverse 18 to 25-year-old AmeriCorps members who build authentic relationships year-round with teachers, students, families, and communities. Many of our Corps members go on to become teachers in the district. And when our students have been faced with traumatic home experiences, our Corps members support them in building coping skills and resilience to move forward. In these challenging times due to COVID, financial struggles, and processing the emotions tied to Black men and women dying senselessly, it's understandable that a student's social emotional well-being has to come first before academic progress can occur. Our Corps members have proven to be essential in the new virtual learning environment as well, so much so that the City Year was named only one of 2 nonprofit partners in the School District of Philadelphia's virtual learning plan. Our Corps members provide students with class support, make tutorial aid videos, create after-school spaces in Google Hangout, and make videos and phone calls to parents and students about school re-engagement. In terms of results, we know that since the School District of Philadelphia began tracking 9th grade on-track rates in 2016, our City of Philadelphia partner high schools have increased their on-track rates by 30 percentage points, 4 times more than the district's increase over the same period. And in a recent Johns Hopkins study, we found that gains made in social emotional learning skills are similar to gaining an entire school year of academic growth. We know that with summer learning loss, disproportionate to our students, it will be harder to recover and anxiety will be higher. So we plan to be there. We need your help to do that. We know that there will be losses in several of your districts already. And so we're hoping to restore some of the $600,000 we normally receive 1,500 students are projected to go unserved and lose our services this year. Please help us keep that from being even worse. Help us close the equity gap our students through by funding City of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Patricia Phillips, followed by Kenneth Begos. Callers, remember to press *6 to unmute your mic. Kenneth Begos, Patricia Phillips. Dawn Hanna.
This is
Remember to press *6 to unmute your mic.
This is Dawn Hanna.
Morning. Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, please.
My name is Dawn Hanna, and I'm here today as the Director of Education at Community Learning Center, a My Place campus, and a partner of the Office of Adult Education. I'm also here as a Philadelphia native, born and raised by a 19-year-old single mom of two. I grew up in the city's Black Bottom and now reside in the Germantown section of the city. According to most predictions, I should be receiving services of Community Learning Center rather than directing them. I realize that I'm one of the lucky ones, and I know that most are not so lucky. According to the research from the National Center for Education Statistics, of 1,170,200 Philadelphians ages 16 through 74, more than 800,000 struggle to read or perform higher-level math. These statistics indicate that most Philadelphian adults lack the skills necessary to thrive and contribute to our city's workforce under normal circumstances, let alone post-COVID. Research clearly shows the link between low literacy, poverty, poor health, and the likelihood of incarceration. Research also shows that an investment in adult education is an investment in the health, safety, welfare, and wealth of all Philadelphians. An investment in changes that matter, that increase of $10,000 per year for the GED graduate once they've earned their diploma. Changes like the $2.5 billion nationally gained in tax revenue and reduced expenses for every 400,000 adults who earn a high school diploma. In the face of such extraordinary data, it is unthinkable that the city's budget would completely eliminate the Office of Adult Education, the only office with a citywide reach dedicated to creating the system to streamline the connection to Philadelphia adults to much-needed education services, to plan strategically, and to ensure the quality of those services. Budgets, yes, are moral documents and reflect our commitment to a vision beyond the immediate bottom line. I implore you to refund the vision and the Office of the Adult Education. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
This is Ken Pegos. You skipped over.
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry. What was the name?
My name is Patricia Phillips.
Patricia Phillips, followed by Kenneth Begos. Everybody just remember, Patricia Phillips should go first, and then Kenneth. Remember, mute is *6 and unmute is *6.
Can you hear me, Patricia? This is Patricia Phillips. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just state your name
so much.
correctly. Please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Greetings. I'm the Chief Academic Officer at Moore College of Art and Design. The roots of the college go back to 1848, a striking investment in the purpose and longevity of the arts. In addition to a long career in higher education, I have also
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
I have also dedicated the past 40 years to thinking and writing for museums and cultural organizations to address important and timely issues of cities, including justice and equity, work and labor, public and environmental health, and other urgent long-term issues of a shared public realm. There is spectacular evidence that artists, generally with the support of essential arts and civics organizations, promote strong communities that are the foundation of great American cities. These are our invaluable and indispensable artists in context who frequently, with the logistical and financial support of future-minded arts organizations such as Public Percent for Art programs, Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy and other civic initiatives embrace and engage the dynamics, diversity, challenges, and opportunities of urban environments. I invite you to imagine what New York City would be like without its Department of Cultural Affairs, as well as the other city organizations that provide the time, space, research, resources, and opportunities to unite artistic vision with community and civic aspirations. I continue this work now and into the future, and now here in Philadelphia, because I have witnessed countless times how artists uniquely and significantly bring purpose and impact to our complex and often challenging contemporary cities and their diverse environments, contexts, and communities. I write and advocate that because of artists and important civic art organizations, change happens, and it matters. It is consequential for all cities and for all citizens. 40 years ago, Merrill Laderman Euclid, who once lived in Philadelphia, became the first artist in residence for the New York City Department of Sanitation. Artist Rick Lowe spearheaded the renovation of abandoned workers' housing in a historically African-American community in Houston to address significant issues of homelessness and abandonment, inequity, and justice. The Astor Dates community art projects and interventions in Chicago have brought expansive resilience to the city. And Suzanne Lacey's curated conversations between Black youth and the Oakland police on the roof of a parking garage is very prescient now as we witness and mourn the death of innocent Black citizens in the hands of and custody of police officers. Art and artists do not create entertaining accessories for cities. Art brings us to the difficult truths and the necessity of epic transformation. A city without art and artists and its arts organizations becomes just a location, culturally and ultimately economically diminished. I moved to Philadelphia 4 years ago, excited and with expectancy for the opportunity to live and work in a city that was in the front lines of cultural innovation, political activism, and opportunity to manifest in its cultural organizations and create vision and agency for many artists. There's a terrific return on investment when we support artists. Artists and our arts organizations have always been American cities' essential workers. They are ubiquitous, venturing into all neighborhoods and communities, and impactful. Artists and our arts organizations need support now more than ever in Philadelphia and beyond. Thank you.
Kenneth? Kenneth Bigos, if you're still on the line, please. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes, thank you, Council President and Council members, for allowing me to present my testimony and comments today. My name is Kenneth Bigos. I'm the Executive Director of the Affordable Housing Centers of Pennsylvania. We're a HUD-approved and DHCD-funded housing counseling organization that performs first-time home buying and foreclosure prevention services. I'm here to present my testimony in terms of the fiscal year budget to make sure that housing counseling services are made available, which includes ensuring that funding for the Housing Trust Fund to provide valuable housing services. The current moratorium on foreclosures and evictions by the governor until July 10th, 2020 has allowed us to get organized and braced for the avalanche of evictions and foreclosures that will submerge the city's court systems and housing counseling agencies. We serve as the EMT workers for households that undergo financial distress with their home. During the Great Recession, we were called upon by the city to rescue homeowners from the threat of mortgage foreclosure. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed the vulnerabilities within the fabric of our society, while the great majority of Philadelphians undertook the social responsibility of staying at home to prevent the community spread. Many people consequently had to undergo financial hardship and will risk losing their home due to at a time that public health officials have urged residents to remain in their home as their best deterrent to stop COVID-19, it will be irresponsible for them to not dedicate resources like housing counseling resources, which focus on helping the residents stay financially solvent and be able to stay in their house. Meanwhile, demand for our first-time homebuyer program, and in particular the Philly First Home Grant, is high. COPA is educating more than 200 households per month on the aspects of purchasing their first home through our Zoom virtual homebuyer classes. And many potential homebuyers see homeownership as the opportunity for greater living space and stable housing payment. It's been a godsend, which many clients who earn a decent living but cannot save the money to help with the upfront cost of homeownership provide the resources to help with this program. So there's no denial that home housing counseling will have a major impact in the stabilization of Philadelphia's neighborhoods and families. And I want to thank you very much for the testimony.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Dawn Hanna. Dawn Hanna, followed by Ginger Sims Riley, followed by Shelley Power.
Dawn already spoke.
Okay, Ginger Sims Riley.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the
My
record.
name is Virginia. Certainly. Virginia Sims Riley, Yusuf Division Director for Housing Stabilization. Thank you for the opportunity to submit comments on behalf of the Utility Emergency Services Fund. Since its inception in 1983, Yusuf has provided countless residents with financial assistance on the utility arrearages, allowing them to stay in their homes. However, Yusuf's overall goal is to empower families to become self-sufficient through housing stabilization. We transformed to a model that leverages the utility assistance with assistance provided by other organizations, some funded from the city's operating budget, to provide even more of a societal return to the city and its residents. In the last 5 years, Yusuf has delivered more than $14 million in direct assistance to over 11,000 residents in every city council district. The average income of residents Yusuf serves is approximately $16,000. Today, we testify that if funding to the Office of Homeless Services and the Philadelphia Water Department were to be cut, the cost to the city in the long run will be far greater than the money saved. We ask that the funding commitment to these agencies remain at previously funded levels, as the funding to these agencies is an investment, not a cost. At Yusuf, we provide utility assistance, which stops the immediate housing crisis for families. But the real goal is to stop the long-term crisis of poverty. The long-term housing and self-sufficiency assistance provided by Yusuf has the most positive financial and societal impact on the city and its residents. Yusuf receives critical funding from the Office of Homeless Services and the Philadelphia Water Department to enable vulnerable Philadelphians to remain in their homes. We are asking for the funding commitment to these agencies to remain at the previously funded levels for every dollar invested in the program funded by OHS. $15 is returned to the city in reduced shelter costs. We are grateful to the mayor and members of City Council for providing funding that enables Yusuf to assist our residents and for shepherding Philadelphia through these unprecedented events with the goal of becoming a stronger, more united city. Together, we are investing in a future of shared prosperity and equality. Thank you for letting me testify.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your testimony.
Yes, hello, this is Shelley Power. Can you hear me?
Is Dawn Hanna on the line by any chance?
This is Shelley Power. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please.
Shall I proceed?
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Council President Clark and the entire council for hearing me today. Good afternoon. I'm Shelley Power, Executive Director of Pennsylvania Ballet, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. The arts in Philadelphia are a source of inspiration for our community and part of what makes our city so beautiful and vibrant. The Office of Arts and Culture and Creative Economy and the Philadelphia Fund is the largest way Philadelphia supports the operations and programming of these organizations. The proposed closure of the Arts Office and the elimination of this budget will cut the city's support of the arts in a time of need, impacting not only employees, but our communities and our economic stimulation. We are at a record high for unemployment, and families need free cultural programming now more than ever. At Pennsylvania Ballet, we serve more than 17,000 children and adults yearly with free arts education throughout the entire year. But there is something bigger than just the cost of these programs that are most concerning. The arts provide an outlet for individuals to deal with the challenges of life. These shared cultural experiences contribute to the health of our communities with positive impact on emotions, attitudes, and beliefs. It bridges differences and connects people. As a child, I grew up with two parents that were alcoholics. I spent so much time in survival mode that it forced me to take care of myself at a young age. My life was changed at 7 years old when I was introduced to the arts. I'll never forget how those classes affected me mentally and emotionally. It felt like freedom, and that I finally found a place where I belonged and could escape my troubles. We experience many stories like these every day at Pennsylvania Ballet, including those individuals that we may never know the extent in which we touch their lives. But as important is to recognize talent in our very own city, and we do this through community programs. Ensuring this access to the arts is a priority for Pennsylvania Ballet. The most rewarding part of my career is witnessing children making that progress. It pains me to think that these programs could be in jeopardy, along with the many other programs offered by our city's vibrant arts organizations. If we're not supposed to be doing this and supporting this, then why are there nonprofits?
Ma'am, if you
I
kind of
urge you to restore funding to the cultural fund. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Danny Orendorf, followed by Malik Neal, and this is the last time calling on Dawn. Danny Orendorf, Malik Neal, or Dawn Hanna? Callers, if you are on the line, remember to press *6 to unmute your mic. Council President, I believe that is the end of the names on the first.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, this is Deidre Krieger. Hello.
Yes. Proceed. Proceed with your testimony.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. My name is Deidre Krieger, and it's a privilege to add my voice against Resolution 200307. Since 1981, Art in City Hall has brought art exhibitions to the hallways of City Hall. Each juried exhibition typically includes 30 to 60 local artists, a size unheard of in most exhibition spaces. Over 100,000 folks visit each year. The Green exhibition in City Hall in 2008 was also my first acceptance into a juried show. In it, my experiment with installation art, a display case filled with a flower bed made of 2,000 empty water bottles, had an impact on thousands of visitors. As a result, I was invited to join the Art in City Hall committee. It was always exciting to work with Tu Hyun and the committee on exhibition planning in conjunction with citywide events. The decision to eliminate Art in City Hall is heartbreaking. The mayor's budget completely cuts funding for the Percent for Art program, the city's custodian of its public sculptures, like the clothespin, that make up our city's identity and placemaking. I was deeply moved by the testimony today and on May 27th about the outcomes of art programs funded by the Cultural Fund, which is also completely cut. UCal in my West Philly neighborhood is one of these programs. UCal provides art classes in under-resourced schools where art has been cut from the curriculum. 450 public school children receive community arts programs free of charge from UCal. Please honor this round of funding promised through the Cultural Fund to allow these grassroots organizations to provide their much-needed programs. While writing my letter to City Council to support Art in City Hall, I learned of the planned increase of $14 million for police. Given the recent tear gassing in my neighborhood, explicitly dispersing protesters expressing themselves, it's clear the resolution is prioritizing oppression, not empowerment. OACCE and the Cultural Fund, like education, housing, and healthcare, are essential for a healthy city and necessary to the well-being of our citizens. The arts inspire, educate, reduce violence, increase empathy, bring attention to societal and cultural issues, and celebrate diversity. The arts in Philadelphia do all this while providing income for artists.
Ma'am, can you,
Yes.
well, your time is up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President, I believe that are all the callers that are part of the first group, unless there are any other callers remaining.
Okay, so we'll take a break so we can tee up the next 20 individuals for the call.
And just so the callers know, I will be calling out names 3 at a time. When the caller before you is done, you may press *6 and unmute your mic, state your name, and proceed with your testimony.
Okay, we are now live.
Thank you so very much, Matt.
Yes. So the first 3 testifiers will be Leslie Grace, Judith Tannenbaum, and Christina Gosnell.
Leslie, are you there?
I'm here, ready to go.
Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Leslie Grace, and I'm speaking today in reference to bills number 200289, 287, and 307. I'm speaking today to say no to a zero budget for arts funding. I teach art at Nevinger Elementary, which prior to my arrival did not have a visual arts program. Since the program has been in place, we've seen growth in school enrollment and in academic achievement. In the 2015 Every Student Succeeds Act, the arts are identified as essential subject areas within a well-rounded education. The arts in our community are undoubtedly essential, and our students' educational experience is enhanced by what they learn in our programming. I believe that arts education is at the core of student achievement and engagement, even now more so with my experiences during remote learning. Since the first week of social distancing, I've been engaging my students with multiple means of creating and expressing. I think of my first grader, Adam, who has been experimenting more with his artistic voice and has found art to be a place where he can take risks and learn from them, and he is able to find his independence in his art making. And second grader Anna has found a way to communicate her ideas during the COVID-19 crisis that she doesn't have the words to express. She turns to art as a way to help her calm down and to contact the outside world she is isolated from. Her classmate Madeline has said art brings her to her happy place right now. Madeline's father agrees, commenting that it's one of the few things she looks forward to these days, and I can't think what we'd do without it. Fourth grader Gary is normally a quiet and reserved young man, but through art, he too finds a strong and loud voice. He believes art is a form of communication and expression where all kids can use their imagination and develop their creativity. Gary has discovered that he feels better while he creates art, demonstrating that art nurtures our social, emotional well-being. Full funding for Philadelphia schools, including arts ed, is a matter of racial equity. Our communities deserve increased support and equitable access to the arts, which is an essential human service. On behalf of my students and our Philadelphia communities who need art in their lives, I ask council members to take a stand for the arts and art ed in our city, and that amid difficult budget decisions.
Leslie, we'll have to wrap up. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.
I tried.
I know I got it. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.
Judith Tannenbaum?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Judith. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Okay, my name is Judith Tannenbaum. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in support of funding for the arts. The past 2 weeks have been fraught with emotion and trauma for our city and for the nation. Instead of reducing the need for funding arts and culture, the protests against police brutality and in support of Black lives underscore the necessity for the continuation of the city's Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. This exemplary department oversees the public art program, Art in City Hall, and other vital programs that reach out to all segments of our community. The recent removal of the Rizzo statue illustrates that art is an integral part of society, not something neutral or removed from it. It represents who we are and what we value. The people of Philadelphia, Black, brown, white, gay, straight, trans, young and old, demanded that the Rizzo statue be removed. The arts embody our history and beliefs. They are not frivolous or arbitrary. I simply cannot imagine the city of Philadelphia without the Office of Arts and Culture or the Philadelphia Cultural Fund. Both are positive agents that affect the quality of life for all citizens on a daily basis and long term. I moved to Philadelphia in 1986 to work at the Institute of Contemporary Art at Penn. 12 years after relocating to Providence, Rhode Island, I chose to move back to Philadelphia because of the strength of our arts and cultural community, from small startups and mid-sized organizations to major institutions, all of which are served by the OACCE and the Culture Fund. I'd like to speak briefly about the city's Percent for Art program. Established in 1959, it's the first and oldest program of its type in the country, a model for other cities across the nation. In its 60 years, more than 650 sculptures, murals, and memorials have been commissioned for every city. The artworks enhance our urban environment and engage with the communities that come into contact with them every day. The COVID-19 shutdown and current racial conflicts require immediate attention.
Judith, I need you to wrap up your testimony. Thank you so very much, Judith. We appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, have a good day. Sure. Matt?
Christina Gosnell.
Hello.
Hello, Christina. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. And Christina, you have 2 minutes, and you will hear a bell signaling that you should conclude.
Got it. Hello, council members. My name is Christina Gosnell, and I live in West Philadelphia. Thanks for the opportunity to be heard today. I'm here to strongly oppose the proposed budget bill. I'm here to support a budget which invests in community wealth generation and includes the continuation of funding of the Philadelphia Area Cooperative Association, or PACA. I'm a volunteer with PACA because I've seen the wonderful impacts that cooperatives can make in communities. Cooperatives, in their very nature, build community wealth and resiliency. A few years ago, I had the great opportunity to start a business with a few friends. We wanted to start a co-op because of the values embedded in the structure itself. One member, one vote is a fundamental shift in the priorities of an entity. It means that I don't get an extra say just because I got there first, or if I had put more money into the business, or if my position was more prestigious or anything like that. My co-op would not have gotten off the ground without the help of an organization like PACA. Starting a co-op is hard, and it brings with it different challenges than starting a traditional business. Setting up bylaws and membership agreements, financing, and startup costs in a world that sees egalitarianism as a risk. Those challenges pay back in fairer compensation, more attention to equity, and long-term sustainable business practices. Co-ops are structurally disincentivized to taking buyouts, undercutting their employees, or moving. Not all businesses or small businesses do those things by any means, but by taking these incentives into baking these incentives in the very fabric of the organization, it means that we're not relying on the goodwill of the folks at the top. If you, as a council, want to invest in stable, community-focused enterprises, why not invest in co-ops as a vehicle? With the support of the city and the Commerce Department, PACA has been doing the good work of helping co-ops start and thrive, all while prioritizing low-income and people of color. Co-ops have had a long, rich history in tandem with civil rights movements, and I've seen firsthand the commitment to racial justice that the co-op community strives to keep at the center of all of our work. I don't envy the hard choices that you're required to make throughout this budget process, but I do urge you to continue to invest in these proven vehicles for community support that have clear returns. I also want to join quickly in the others that have called for the defunding of the police in this budget process. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christina. We appreciate your testimony. Matt?
One second here, Councilman Parker. Gail Harity, followed by Cynthia Allen and Sharon Marino.
My name is Gail Harity, and I am president of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Good afternoon, Council President Clark and Councilwoman Parker. Our city, over the past 2 weeks, has... can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, Gail.
Yeah,
Please
I'm sorry.
proceed.
Thank you. Our city and country has just witnessed an extraordinary demonstration of democratic rights calling for systematic change. The arts will help foster this change in a meaningful and productive manner. And for that reason, I offer my opposition to the proposed cuts to the Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy, the Cultural Fund, and the African American Museum in Philadelphia. The Office of Arts and Culture and the Cultural Fund are critical to supporting our city's cultural sector, especially our small and neighborhood-based organizations and independent artists. The fund funds nearly 350 organizations and utilizes a funding formula that benefits small organizations over larger ones, often providing up to 30% of their operating budget. Further, 51% of the grantees are led by women and 58% are led by people of color. As we plan for the city's recovery following the pandemic, this source of funding is critical to continuing to build equity in our sector. Further, at this historic moment of time, with unified calls for ending systematic racism, eliminating funding for AMP is antithetical to the cries for racial justice advocated by thousands from City Hall's plaza to the Art Museum steps. Our museums do not rely solely on city funding. The city's investment in our arts organizations enable us to leverage public dollars to generate private donations and earned revenues. AMP is the city's premier cultural institution celebrating African American history and culture, and maintaining public funding is the message that Philadelphians want to hear. Our cultural sector is vital to the fabric of the city, improves the quality of life of our residents, and attracts millions of visitors every year. The Art Museum is the city's iconic landmark. It is the entirety.
Thank you.
But it is the entirety of the cultural economic system which diversify our institutions, both large and small, that benefit Philadelphia. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your testimony, Gail. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cynthia Allen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Cynthia. Cynthia, please state your name for the record. You'll hear a bell, Cynthia, when you get to your 2-minute mark.
Thank you. My name is Cynthia Allen, bill number 200-287, and my testimony is in reference to adult education. The Office of Adult Education is the bridge, the structure that guides thousands and thousands of Philadelphians to reach their educational goals. At Center for Literacy, we see firsthand the disparity that comes with living in poverty and not being from this country. OAE is the first step for adults seeking basic academic skills, English language acquisition training, high school equivalency preparation, workforce and post-secondary preparation, and digital literacy skills. The pandemic, COVID-19, has left many Philadelphians hopeless and helpless. The recent death of George Floyd has left many Philadelphians feeling that their voices are not heard. We cannot afford for the bridge, the platform which is known as the Office of Adult Education, to collapse. Therefore, I speak for those whose voices have been hushed and whose spirits have been crushed. I speak for Anita Hopkins. I speak for Megan Fisher. I speak for Maury Kaba. I speak for Suleiman Diallo. I speak for Mandi Kangalu. I understand why the top priority of the fiscal year 2021 operating budget is the Department of Police. However, if we have less education, then we will have more crime. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to voice my concerns for adult education, and I trust that adult education will remain a priority for Philadelphians. We are the city that loves our brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Cynthia, I don't know how you did that, but you got all of that in and the bell didn't even ring. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Because listen, it's important for council. Everybody's committed to making sure all of our residents get an opportunity to express their positions relative to this budget process. And that's why we have the time constraint. So I just wanted to say thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sharon Marino. Andrew Wukoff.
Hi, this is Sharon Marino. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sharon, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Sharon, please state your name for the record. And listen, when you get to your 2-minute mark, you're going to hear a bell, Sharon, and that will signal the end of the testimony, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sharon Marino. And I serve as the proud principal of McClure Elementary, located in Councilwoman Sanchez's district. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm here to testify on behalf of City Year Philadelphia, whom I have partnered with for the past 11 years. I'd like to share how our partnership with City Year transformed and continues to positively impact our Hunting Park community. In 2014, City Year and Wells Fargo chose McClure for their annual day of service. With great joy, we shared the news with our school community and began to dream about the impact this day would have. Needless to say, the finished product exceeded our expectations. Brightly painted hallways and classrooms, a new gym floor, playground, picnic tables, and a schoolyard space that provides our students a safe space to play and learn the important soft skills that are lacking in our society. City Year made a forever impact on Hunting Park that day by redefining our space and our place in our community, and by rising above the systemic racism that is neglected, that is reflected in neglected buildings as old as McClure. Fast forward to 2019, the McClure staff and our City Year team are off to our best start yet, energizing morning meetings, daily mentoring for students, data-driven academic groups, after-school programming. But on December 16th, 2019, our world came crashing down. Imminent hazards of asbestos forced our building to close, instructions and supports to cease for weeks on end, and our community to once again suffer the systemic and environmental racism that exists today, particularly in Black and Brown communities. And once again, who immediately stepped up to support our community through advocacy, check-ins, and much more? Yes, our City Year team. Now, because of the support of key partners such as City Year, McClure will be opening the fall not only lead-safe, but with all asbestos-containing materials removed from the building. Overcoming this environmental racism would not have happened without the continued support of City Year. So given the current challenges our city and country face, and the ever-present and now more urgent need to continue to fight against systemic racism, how can we even consider not funding City Year, a critical partner who will be vital to supporting our students and our families emotionally and socially when we return? On behalf of the Hunting Park community and the children that we serve, we ask for your financial support for City Year Philadelphia so that our future doesn't have to suffer the way Philadelphia is suffering now. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for your testimony. We appreciate you taking the time. Matt?
Thank you.
Andrew Lukoff. Emily Weiner. Remember to press *6 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Is this Emily?
Yes, this is Emily Weiner.
Hi, Emily. Listen, thank you so very much. State your name, Emily, for the record. Feel free to proceed with your testimony.
This is Andrew Lukoff. May I go, or do you want me to wait?
Okay, no, Andrew. We didn't know you were here. We didn't hear you when we called your name. So, Andrew, please state your name for the record. You can proceed with your testimony. When you hear the bell, you'll know that that's the time to wound up. So, thank you so much.
My name is Andrew Lukoff. Good afternoon to the President and members of City Council. I am the principal of Southwark School, located on 1835 South 9th Street in Councilman Mark Squilla's district. I want to begin my testimony with a few questions. What if I told you there was a school who this past year ranked number 2 out of 166 schools in Philadelphia with their Pennsylvania State Average Growth Index in English Language Arts, and ranked number 1 out of 166 schools in Philadelphia with their Pennsylvania State Average Growth Index in math? What if I told you the same school ranked in the top 20 in attendance in the district for the past 2 years? What if I told you there was a support within our building's ecosystem that builds positive relationships with students, complements our hardworking and talented teachers by offering instructional support and reducing the adult-to-student ratio in our classrooms, and creates a positive culture in our building that makes students want to come to school every day? Would you call it essential? Would you defund it? The school that I am talking about is Southwark School. The support that I am referencing is City Year. City Year has been at Southwark for the past 4 years, and during the pandemic, our City Year Corps members have continued to support our students virtually. And no matter what model we implement this fall, they will be at our sides assisting our students who will require significant instruction, detailed attention, and boundless love. City Year provides that and so much more. Let me share with you one last piece of data and one last question. Are you willing to take away an essential service from 19 schools and more than 11,000 students? Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Principal Andrew. We appreciate your testimony. Emily, are you still on?
Yes, can you hear me, Councilwoman?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you now. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Excellent. My name is Emily Weiner. Good afternoon, council members. I'm a board member with South Philly Food Co-op, a startup community-owned grocery store with over 1,300 member-owner households, and I'm on staff with the Philadelphia Area Cooperative Alliance, or PACA. I'm here today to voice my strong opposition to Bill number 200287. Cooperatives, or co-ops, are key to building and sustaining a resilient local economy, especially in times of crisis and recovery. We can think of co-ops as two things in one: an association of people with a common purpose and the legal or business entity. It is the will of the former that drives the success, the resilience of the latter. Research shows that while 60 to 80% of traditionally organized businesses fail in their first year of operations,
Only 10% of cooperatively organized businesses fail on that same timeline. PACA provides technical assistance to existing co-ops and groups looking to form cooperatives, and is a member of the Business Technical Assistance Providers Network convened by the Department of Commerce. Because of PACA's role in this network over the last 2 years, we are seeing a sharp increase in the number of cooperatives led by people of color in development and or opening in our city. It would be ludicrous to pass a budget that slashes funding from the general fund to the Department of Commerce by 85% in a time of economic downturn. We need the partnership between the Department of Commerce and PACA to stay strong and well-resourced if we are to see a just recovery. And frankly, while I appreciate the spirit behind the New Normal Budget Act, the press release for which alluded to partnerships with commerce such as this, as well as the letter signed by 14 of you opposing an increase in police funding, these incremental changes are not enough. A $25 million reallocation within a $4.9 billion general fund budget is a drop in the bucket and certainly insufficient to address the root causes of injustice laid bare by COVID-19 and recent murders of Black people by the police. Should you move forward with the New Normal Budget Act, we demand that you write into the text of the amendment a process for community engagement in directing the allocation of those monies. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to continuing the dialogue about restoration and justice in budgeting in the weeks and years to come.
Thank you so much, Emily, for your testimony. Matt?
Jamie Clark, Brent Wall, and Brian Gallagher. Callers, remember to press *6 to unmute your phone. Jamie Clark, Brent Wall, Brian Gallagher. Patricia Wilson Aiden.
And here, I was waiting for the other two to go.
Okay, so I'm sorry, sir. Can you state your name again?
My name is Brian Gallagher, and I'm speaking today as a member. Should I start over? My name is Brian Gallagher, and I'm speaking today as a member of a coalition of educators for transforming trauma and violence in our communities. To quote one of our members, desperation and mania is always the symptom of trauma, violence, and pain. As educators in urban classrooms, we see the effects of trauma on our students daily. They, along with their families and broader communities, are confronted with violence in their everyday lives because they live in poverty. They are exposed to shootings, lack of food, jobs, and housing, inadequate health care, underfunded, under-resourced, and unsafe schools, and the constant threat of brutality or murder by police. With the recent uprisings, we have seen what happens when the root causes of poverty, exploitation, and white supremacy are not meaningfully addressed. None of this happens by accident. These are all consequences of decisions made by politicians just like you. How a society or government spends its money shows us everything we need to know about its priorities and values, which is why, following an increase in shootings last summer, I was pleased when Mayor Kenney announced the Roadmap to a Safer Philadelphia, which included a $1 million grant to be provided to over 50 grassroots organizations across the city already doing the work of combating gun violence and dealing with the trauma it leaves in its wake. COVID has caused unexpected financial stress to the system, but it says an awful lot about what we value, and this grant was one of the first things to be defunded. This budget also calls for deep cuts to vital human services, while hundreds of city employees have lost their jobs, all while the police department budget is increased by $14 million. Absurd. The fact is, this city still has an abundance of wealth that could be used to fully fund programs that benefit poor and working class people if we increase taxes on the rich, corporations, and developers, and require non-profit universities to pay pilots. If we were serious about stopping or slowing the rates of shootings in the city, we would be making serious investments into community programs that improve quality of life. If we were serious about improving safety, we wouldn't be taking money from vital human services in favor of the PPD, a force that has been the explicit cause of much violence and suffering. I'm demanding that you reject this budget as it is currently written. I ask that you recommit to the $1 million grant to fund local organizations, reallocate police dollars to job training programs and internships. Police reforms are wholly inadequate, so we ask that for at least a 10% decrease in the police budget. If we prioritize...
Brian, I'm sorry. I have to cut you off there.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Patricia Wilson Aiden.
Hello, this is Patricia Wilson Aiden.
Hello, Patricia Wilson Aiden. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Patricia Wilson Aiden, and I'm the president of the African American Museum in Philadelphia.
The African American Museum occupies a unique space in Philadelphia's cultural landscape by virtue of its mission focusing on African American art, history, and culture. Dedicated to bringing diverse communities together in appreciation of the Black experience, the museum attracts over 60,000 visitors a year. Each year, the museum delivers enriching educational programming to nearly 20,000 students, many who attend Title I schools and who benefit from inspiring lessons reflecting their own culture. For these reasons and more, I urge you to reconsider the proposed elimination of the African American Museum's annual funding. Illuminating the historic legacies and contemporary experiences of Black people is central to our mission. Through our compelling exhibits and thought-provoking programs, we strive to raise consciousness and inspire informed activism by people of all races. Today, 71% of the museum's audience is African American. 25% of our visitors are senior citizens. More than 60% of our audience is low income. No other museum in Philadelphia can claim the same broad outreach and deep impact. Over the past several years, the African American Museum has successfully grown its budget by diversifying its revenue sources. Today, the city's annual allocation helps cover personnel costs that are not usually funded through corporate sponsorships and foundation grants. Elimination of the African American Museum's $231,000 allocation flies in the face of the clarion call for racial equity that is resounding throughout our city. We believe that our dedication to educational excellence and dynamic programming equip us to address the corrosive racial injustices that continue to scar our city. Thank you for your time. We hope that you will reconsider the allocation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patricia Wilson-Ayton, for your testimony. Matt?
Hi, this is Jamie Clark. I was here and I didn't realize I had to do the *6. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you so much, Jamie. Jamie, just please state your whole name for the record. And Jamie, you'll hear that bell go off multiple times when you get to the end of your time for testimony, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon. My name's Jamie Clark. Thank you for your time, Council President and Council members, for this opportunity to address you today. I am a proud assistant principal at Kensington High School. Today, I will be sharing remarks on behalf of our school and our school principal, Dr. Jose Lebron. I take great pride in sharing a few quick thoughts about City Year and the impact it has had on the lives of our students and our staff. I have been affiliated with City Year for many years. My comments today are based on the beneficial experiences that our students have enjoyed since I've been at Kensington. City Year has addressed the issues of racism and social injustice in our schools, where many inequities are perpetuated on a daily basis. Some of those are very subtle and difficult to detect. However, City Year has gone a long way to eradicate a lot of that silent racism. City Year levels the playing field by providing the following. Academic support provides one-on-one and one-on-small group instruction. Social and emotional supports provides an outlet for our students to share their personal concerns with someone they trust, being available to students at all times, before, during, and after school. After-school programs and clubs often attract some of the most disenfranchised students and make them a part of our school community. Additional supports are adults in the classroom, promotes differentiation to enhance teaching and learning. Holistic approach to student care, supports students in all aspects of school life. A positive school culture, morning greetings, student celebrations, interactive bulletin boards, etc. Warm demanders, they provide tough love. They promote the importance of attendance, grades, and planning for the future. Tracking of student progress, looping from class to class. Your support of City Year is crucial to the continued struggle to eradicate racism from our school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Tamara Anderson, followed by April McBride, followed by Luciana Cairns.
Hello?
Is that you, Tamara?
This is me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This is Tamara Anderson.
Tamara. Tamara, listen, please state your complete name for the record, proceed with your testimony, and you'll hear the bell go off when it's the end of your time. Thank you for your patience.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Tamar Anderson. I'm speaking on behalf of Bill number 200-287. I'm writing on behalf of a coalition of educators for transforming trauma and violence in our communities. As caring adults who interact with students and families every day, we see firsthand the trauma that gun violence as well as poverty, systemic racism, and inequality inflicts on our neighborhoods. For these reasons, we are asking that the 2021 city budget prioritize grassroots community-led gun violence intervention. And because during the summer of 2019, members of our coalition spoke before City Council to address the disturbing spike in gun homicides that we were seeing in Philadelphia. And we saw that our students were already struggling bravely against a variety of societal shortcomings as they worked toward their education. Part of Mayor Kenny's response to the violent summer was announcing a roadmap for safer communities, including a $1 million grant funding for grassroots organizations that have already been fighting gun violence in our communities for years. We applauded the mayor's recognition that gun violence is a systemic public health crisis and is best addressed under the leadership of those most directly affected and most directly connected to the community. However, when the mayor just announced that this funding will be frozen indefinitely as a result of the pandemic, we see no reason why these neighborhood organizations, which have operated and adapted to a variety of changing local contexts throughout the years, would not be qualified to continue adapting during these turbulent times, when community power and anti-violence efforts seem all the more crucial. The suggestions made by City Council, which includes ending stop and frisk and adding police oversight, does very little to make the radical changes necessary to truly transform or abolish policing. So while we support the rejection, we are calling for a reinstatement of those funds to the neighborhood organizations, of funding for human services, the arts, the mental health, and other community organizations to avoid another violent summer. Thank you.
We thank you so very much for your testimony, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
April McBride, followed by Luciana Cairns. April McBride. Luciana. Yolanda Bryant. Vanessa Leary.
We just want to remind any callers who are on the line that you have to is it *6?
Yes, *6.
You have to press *6 to unmute. We just called the names of 4 people who should have been in queue. April, may I pronounce the next one?
Sure. Luciana, Yolanda, and Vanessa.
If you're on the line, just please press *6 to unmute.
Yolanda Bryant.
Hi, Yolanda. Thank you so much for your patience, Yolanda. Please state your name for the record. You can proceed with your testimony, and you're going to hear that bell, Yolanda, when we get to the end of your time.
Okay. Good afternoon, Yolanda Bryant, council members. Thanks for listening to me speak for Bill 20086. But I'm actually for it, but I'm against 20087. I'm asking you to decrease police funding and DHS funding. In the last few weeks, our city and nation realized that the change is necessary for the good of your constituents. I do not feel safe in my city, and I love it. 1/6 of the city's budget is spent on police. We need to rethink how to address public safety. Let's look at how Camden decreased their rate by 50%. Our murder rate has increased every year, and I'm deeply saddened by the number of high school students who I saw today on the slideshow that have died this year, including Jimmy Mayo, who was killed by another foster child. Renee Gilliard, his foster mother, was also killed by this same child. DHS continues to misplace foster children, and they also weaponize the police in removing children. Just last night, police were called to a home involving a child with DHS. The child was safe, and thankfully the police did not interfere. We need you to decrease the police funding and DHS funding. Since they say they have a lower number of children in placement, why do they continue to still need the same amount of funding? In the past years, DHS had the highest removal of children.
DHS should be helping families, not separating siblings and refusing to place them with fit-enabled relatives. Thank you for listening, and please follow up with your actions for your constituents, for the city I love. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for your testimony. Thank you. Matt?
Vanessa Leary. Followed by Marjorie Ogilvy. Apologies if I pronounced your name wrong. Followed by Alvin Clay.
Vanessa, Marjorie, or Alvin, if you're on, don't forget that you have to press *6 if you want to unmute. Vanessa, Marjorie, or Alvin?
This is Alvin. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, Alvin, we can hear you now. Alvin, please state your name for the record when you begin your testimony, and you're going to hear a bell signaling the end of your time at the end, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Hi, I'm Alvin Clay, Executive Director of iRadio Philly. I'm testifying on Bill 200287. In response to the mayor's revised budget, I created a petition called Save the Office of Arts and Culture and the Creative Economy. To date, I have 16,314 supporters of the petition, and I'm just going to paraphrase it for you. Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney released a revised budget in response to the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. We understand that hard decisions needed to be made and that cutbacks of program budget reductions were inevitable. However, to completely eliminate an office that supports a vital industry in the city of Philadelphia, especially one that has been hit very hard during this crisis, is short-sighted and should be reversed. In the new budget, the Office of Arts and Culture was budgeted $0, down from approximately $4.4 million, effectively closing the office. Most of that budgeted money goes directly to the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, which gives grants to hundreds of nonprofits in the city. According to the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, the arts and cultural sector generates $4.1 billion in economic impact and supports 55,000 jobs. That in turn leads to $224 million in state and local taxes. The creative economy includes, but not limited to, artists, musicians, painters, sculptors, dancers, actors, filmmakers, venues, theaters, museums, galleries, bartenders, waiters, chefs, box office workers, sound engineers, and more. It also includes art and dance studios, recording studios, and after-school programs. There's also side industries like accountants and lawyers, hotels, rideshare drivers, parking, public relations, and marketing. We're simply asking that the City of Philadelphia Office of Culture and Creative Economy Office not be eliminated.
Thank you so much, Alvin. We greatly appreciate your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret Peg Shaw, followed by Lynn Robinson, followed by Mary May.
My name's Marjorie Ogilvy. I believe I was called.
Oh, yes, Marjorie, we did. You were before Alvin Clay. So, Marjorie, listen, you proceed with your testimony. State your complete name for the record, and you'll hear that bell when we have to conclude your testimony.
Thank you. My name's Marjorie Ogilvy. My family has owned and operated a business in West Parkside for over 30 years. I'm the president of the local business association. My husband, Miller Parker, serves on the board along with the leadership of the other major businesses and institutions in the area. Miller is also on the board of the Mann Center for the Performing Arts. West Parkside is a vibrant residential and business community, which now needs your support. Today, we, along with Lucinda Hudson, president of the Parkside Association of Philadelphia, are testifying in support of the Mann Center. The Mann is one of the cornerstones of this community, bringing educational and economic opportunity. It provides top-notch programming, which is essential to enhance the out-of-school time experience for West Parkside young people. With city operational funding upkeep, it will allow the important educational program to continue through the pandemic. The Mann Center is a city-owned property, and if money is not provided for basic upkeep, snow removal, plumbing, structural repairs, what will become of it? Council can't afford to repair the damage that could occur. Council needs to commit a small portion of funding, $300,000, to maintain the facility until it can reopen next year. The increased funding for the police department is absurd and needs to be used in these vital structures. West Parkside will rebuild, but we need City Council's help. Thank you, and please help.
Thank you so very much for your testimony. Matt?
Yes, Margaret Peg Shaw. Lynn Robinson. Mary May.
Hello?
Mary May is present.
Brent Wall.
Mary May is present.
Okay, so Brent. So Brent Wall, now Brent, we had you early on, okay, and you weren't on the line. So Brent, we're going to have you. Brent, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I've been waiting on the line.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Please just state your name for the record, Brent. You'll hear the bell ring when your 2 minutes is up. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Brent. Hi, my name is Brent Wall. I'm a visual artist and faculty member at the Weitzman School of Design at Penn. I'm a recipient of a public art commission for the Philadelphia Rail Park. Aside from the exceptional talent pool, it is the institutions and grassroots organizations that are the backbone of Philadelphia's cultural prominence in the United States. Everyone in this community is guided and assisted by the crucial Office of the Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. The facts speak for themselves. In 2018, the money allocated to the OACCE generated over 37,000 jobs, $930 million for household incomes, and $157 million in tax revenue. These incredible numbers should give you pause because they produce value. Since the budget cut was proposed, the world has been uprooted again. The city needs healing, and one thing that will empower communities and equity in urban environments is tending to the art in and for public space and providing programming that is equitable to all. Not only do agencies, institutions, and individuals need the OACCE for sustainability, so does the public. The public art program, as we know, is the oldest in the country. There are over 1,000 works of art under the care of the OACCE. What this means for residents and visitors of Philadelphia is that the care of and conservation of this work will be tended to so that this art can stay in the public sphere, so that this art can educate, so it can continue to bring communities together, so it can provide joy, and so it can nurture economic development. The city cannot continue to benefit from these resources, these assets, without the hard work of the Office, the Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. These are extremely complex times, but I urge you to fully flush out the ramification of what is being proposed by this cut. I urge you at a minimum to retain the OACC.
Brent, I'm sorry, we have to conclude. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam, you can go back to the order, please.
I believe we're on Margaret Peg Shaw.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please just state your name for the record. You'll hear the bell when your 2 minutes is up. Thank you for your patience.
Yes, and thank you so much. My name is Margaret Shaw, and I'm testifying today on Bill 200287. Before continuing with my planned testimony, I want to echo the sentiments of so many other people. I stand in full support and solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and urge Council to begin now with this budget to redefine public health and safety, shift funds away from police, prisons, and the militarization of our schools, and generate additional funding through strategic investments in new revenue sources. As a resident of East Falls, a Ward 38 Democratic Committee person, and a founding member of Toxic Free Philly, I present my testimony today
in support of full funding for the Philadelphia Parks and Recreation operational and maintenance budgets. And I urge the city to reimagine PPR as a vital vehicle for launching a transformative Green New Deal. I ask City Council to urgently harness increased resources through such mechanisms as a public bank, payments in lieu of taxes, the immediate elimination of the tax abatement, and investing in energy efficiency programs. Like most of our institutions, PPR has been underfunded for decades with far too few staff and paltry support for equipment and maintenance needs. It's impossible for our workforce and administrators to do their very best under these circumstances. While I commend the city for fostering a broad and vibrant network of volunteer park stewards and recreational groups, the over-reliance on volunteers to care for citywide infrastructure does not lead to equal and equitable park conditions throughout the city, despite best and often heroic efforts. More can be done to foster real community control and direction. We can revision how we manage our public parks as a foundation for a Green New Deal. We can refashion park-based community groups as incubators for creating a professional Green Corps to steward parks, lead programs, and tackle a host of climate change impacts at the neighborhood level. Toxic Free Philly seeks to remove toxic chemicals from our public lands and is building partnerships with PPR. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so very much for your testimony and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Matt?
Lynn Robinson? Or Mary May?
Mary May is present.
Lynn Robinson, if you are on the line, may you please press star 6 to unmute your phone?
Mary May is present.
Okay. So
those lines are unmuted. Is there another caller on the line? Lynn Robinson, are you present? Mary May.
Thank you, Mrs. May. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. You'll hear the bell when you get to the 2 minutes is up.
Thank you. My name is Mary May. Good afternoon, and thank you, City Council. I am here as a testimony in support of the Coalition of Educators Transforming Trauma and Violence on the bill number 200287. Transforming Trauma and Violence, which is made up of local organizations like Racial Justice Organizing and parents and teachers and mental health specialists. As a collaborative partner in education and behavioral health, it is instrumental to provide support to the whole child, but the whole operating support system. This would include leadership to shift their narrative to operationally focus on being inclusive to manage interpersonal trauma that impacts learning. In that role, they are facilitated by skilled behavioral health professionals, support professionals, teams, and acknowledge the guide leaders to a safe place to check in their emotional barriers that would impact learning. And also providing nurturing supports to clear distractions from them successfully being able to support the children in their reach on natural relationships. The perspective would be able to shift the burden of impact of one child on creative interventions and support all children's voices in the classroom. The presence of consistency and personnel that is aware and able to support creates more success in education than policing behavior. All children bring in different experiences into the academic day and in their daily lives in general. The impact of their experiences is communicated by their behavior because they have not developed a safe space or the narrative to communicate otherwise. The support of incorporating emotional check-ins is optimal for their success in each and every expectation and demand that is present in their lives. Integrating the support of systemically trained clinicians support. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
No problem.
Mr. President, there's one caller on the line. I'm not sure if we can get to them. Lynn Robinson, are you able to speak?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Robinson?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Is this Miss Robinson?
Yes, thank you. I've been
Okay.
trying to unmute several times.
Yeah, we hear you. Please proceed with your
Wonderful.
testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council and members of the public. My name is Lynn Robinson. I'm a Germantown resident, a retired school teacher, and an environmental activist. I signed up to testify on the school budget, but what I want to say first is what keeps coming back to me about the George Floyd murder. The police officer, as he kneeled on Mr. Floyd's windpipe, said, "Just relax." Just relax is what Mayor Kenney expects us to do as he cuts services to the poor, the most vulnerable, and essential institutions like libraries and arts programs. Just relax is what we're supposed to do as carcinogenic benzene still leaks from tanks at the defunct PES refinery. And just relax is what SEPTA, Mayor Kenney, and some certain other politicians expect from Nicetown, Germantown, and East Falls, as SEPTA plans to choke us with a gas power plant and a plan to expand to 5 times the size, figuring it'll get a major permit from friends in high places. Please do not even consider Mayor Kenney's right-wing budget proposals, which will literally result in deaths and smother any remaining trust in government. My topic is the school budget. The top priority for the school budget should be to literally rescue this generation of children who attend public schools. Clean up lead, asbestos, and mold in all contaminated school buildings. Keep every dangerous school shuttered and remediate those schools over the next year to 18 months by hiring 5 times the workforce. While remediating, weatherize the buildings and save money on utility bills and address the climate crisis. The city always cries poor when buying stadiums and helping Comcast build towers. It expects public school children to tough it out and just relax with asthma and brain damage and a destroyed future. Oh. Okay, I have 10 ways to save money, but my time's up. Thank you.
If you would like, you can send those 10 ways in to us, and we can make sure it's a part of the record and send it via
Okay,
email.
I appreciate that. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much for the testimony.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Council President, that is the end of the list for this group.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll tee up for the next 20. Thank you. We'll be back shortly.
Okay, we are now live, Council President.
Thank you. And we are live and we're reconvening for the public testimony for the FY21 budget. And I believe we have Mr. Goy. Is he ready on the line with the first name?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
First name is Sean Damon. Is Sean Damon available? The next name is Kim McClary, and the third name is Jessica Kraft. If folks could be ready to unmute their phones by pressing *6. Is Sean Damon available?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Can you hear me?
We hear you. Fine.
Thank you. My name is Sean Damon.
Please proceed.
My name is Sean Damon. I'm the organizing director at Amistad Law Project, and I've lived in West Philly for the last 20 years. Not but a few years into living in West Philly, an incident happened that shook me. A friend of mine who I volunteered with at a nonprofit community bookstore lost his older brother to being murdered by the police. Aaron Forbes was only 26 when he was shot by Lower Merion police after being accused of stealing from a gas station on his way home from his job as a security guard. Not long after that, myself and others organized a protest against what we called the criminal injustice system during the Republican National Convention in 2000. We lifted up the memory of Aaron Forbes and others during our protest, and we were met with fierce police violence, such as what we saw done by Officer Bologna. In those days, when I saw police grip up young black people who were my age on my block, or when we saw police acquitted in shooting after shooting of black and brown folks, the message was clear. Police wouldn't be held accountable. But now we are at a turning point. Now we will hold them accountable. Today I'm calling on City Council to cut $120 million from the Philadelphia police budget. The amount the police budget has increased since Mayor Kenney has taken office. This moment calls for us to abolish most of the functions of the police and substantially shrink the footprint of policing. We should create a non-police first responder force like Cahoots in Eugene, who are trained in de-escalation and can connect people struggling with mental health issues with social services. Retail theft is another thing that can be dealt with by non-police first responders. Connect people to social services and give the stores an insurance slip for whatever claim they need to file. In fact, we could create a new city agency that is responsible for tracking thefts. Thefts could be mapped out, and we could look for patterns. And when it seems like there's a significant coordinated theft happening over a span of months that is not a crime of opportunity, we could refer those cases to a non-police investigator. Again, we don't have to send people with guns to deal with those cases. We should remove police from schools immediately. We should decriminalize turnstile jumping. With drugs, we should decriminalize drug use and use harm reduction strategies such as social workers, overdose prevention, treatment, and get rid of drug task forces. For violent crime, we should resource group violent interrupter programs led by directly impacted people who are themselves part of street violence. As well, we can and should take resources from the police.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to wrap up your 2 minutes. When the bell rings, it's your time. If you could just wrap it up, please.
Thank you. We can and should reduce the police budget by $120 million. Calling City Council to do that today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Kim McClary. Kim McClary, and then Jessica Kraft.
Hi, this is Jessica Kraft.
How are you? Please state your name and proceed with your testimony.
Hi, my name is Jessica Kraft, and I am the founder and chief executive officer at Rock to the Future and speaking in support of the Philadelphia Cultural Fund. Rock to the Future provides music programs for hundreds of Philadelphia youth each year directly in community locations and under-resourced schools at no cost to participants. Through music, we help youth achieve their fullest potential. Our after-school program has a 100% post-secondary education rate, and thousands of community members enjoy free performances from our students annually. Youth grow and express their unique identities in safe spaces, learn teamwork and career skills, and find positive ways of self-expression. Rock to the Future is one of hundreds of grassroots organizations that rely on the Cultural Fund. The elimination of the Cultural Fund will devastate community arts organizations that already operate on shoestring budgets and endless passion. Many organizations will not survive without this funding, and their services cannot be replaced. Cultural Fund grantees support education, safety, and health of Philadelphians and keeps those citizens here in our city. Those are key goals for us all. The organizations interrupt the cycles of violence, advocate for the welfare and rights of immigrants,
preserve, honor, share, and celebrate artifacts and art forms pertaining to the experiences of Black and Brown people and other marginalized communities, are an outlet for local content and community news, connect and heal communities, and make arts accessible. Because of the Cultural Fund, thousands of children in the city have access to arts programming directly in their schools and neighborhood. Thousands of community members have the chance to discover, appreciate, and share arts and culture from around the globe. Because of the Cultural Fund, community members have jobs directly in their communities, and communities are vibrant and thrive, despite inequitable funding cuts and lack of resources. Our communities are worth the investment. Community arts organizations are essential. The Cultural Fund is essential. Thank you for your time and service.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Kim McClary, Chris Henderson, and Kempis Songster. If folks will remember to press *6 to unmute themselves in that order. Is Kim McClary on the line? Chris Henderson? Kempis Songster.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Your name, please?
Chris Henderson.
Chris Henderson. Mr. Henderson, please proceed with your testimony.
My name is Chris Henderson. I'm the Executive Director of Amistad Law Project. When I was 13 years old, Earl Faison, a close family friend, was killed by cops. A cop had been killed, so police officers from all over northern New Jersey, where I grew up, were looking for the person who had killed her, and Earl was picked up despite not matching the description of the cop's killer. I'll never forget Earl's father talking about having to identify Earl with Polaroid because the cops wouldn't show him his son's brutalized body. Black lives matter, and we want a budget that reflects that. As police across the country kill and assault Black people, Philadelphians have taken to the streets to demand justice. The call for justice has moved from being about individual bad cops to the entire violent system of policing. We don't just want police officers held accountable for their violence. We want to take away their power to commit violence. Cops are sent to do the jobs of social workers, community organizations, and healthcare workers. We need to shrink the role of the police, disband and reorganize them, and reassign most of their current roles to an unarmed first responder corps, social service agencies, and community groups. The Philadelphia Police Department wants $760 million next year, a $19 million increase. I was heartened by news that a supermajority of council and Mayor Kinney want to reject that increase, but we must go even further. Defund the police. We call on you to not only reject any budget that gives the police more money, but to take away some of their over $700 million budget. Since Mayor Kinney was elected, the PPD budget has increased $120 million. We want that money back. We want the PPD budget cut by $120 million. We want that money invested in parks and rec centers, in libraries, in young people, in public transit, in the social services that make our communities safer. Defunding the police is only radical if you ignore our underfunded schools, the thousands of Philadelphians without homes, the 26% of Philadelphians living below the poverty line. Those have been the truly radical politics of the last century. We could show that we believe in people over punishment and our communities over cops. Defund the police.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Next up is Kempis Songster, then Nikki Grant, and then Gerald Veasley. Please remember to press *6 to unmute yourself. Kempis Songster. Nikki Grant. Gerald Veasley.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, how are you? We can hear you. If you can just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, my name is Nikki Grant. I'm the Policy Director of Amistad Law Project. Not giving the Philadelphia Police Department an additional $14 million during these difficult financial times is only the first step towards an equitable budget. In order to provide our communities with the resources they need to thrive, the city must make further cuts to the bloated PPD budget. We should be looking to cities like Los Angeles and be making cuts on the scale of $120 million or more. Here are a few suggestions to start. Make cuts to patrolling in our neighborhoods and lay off officers. Forego the enormous expense on laundering uniforms to the tune of nearly $2 million. Eliminate mounted police, which would save thousands on vet costs. Reduce or eliminate use of helicopters, saving hundreds of thousands in maintenance costs. Eliminate the purchase of chemical and explosive military-grade weapons to use on civilians, like tear gas, to the tune of $3 million. To conclude, now is the time to be bold and use our imagination. Across this country, people are considering and discussing what it means to keep our communities safe, to prevent violence without the police. An institution people are beginning to realize does not work and disproportionately harms Black people. In this, the poorest big city in the U.S., we have the moral obligation to make sure our communities have affordable housing, healthy food, a quality education, good paying jobs, programming for our youth, excellent public transit, and access to health care. A better Philadelphia is possible, but we have to decide to make it so. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
The next three on the list are Gerald Veasley, Terry Fox, and Mark Harrell. If folks can remember to press *6 to unmute themselves. If Gerald Veasley is on the line, please go ahead. Terry Fox. Mark Harrell.
Veasley.
Veasley.
Can you hear me?
Veasley. Yes,
please. Can you hear me?
State your name for the
thank
record.
you.
Please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Gerald Veasley. I serve as president of Jazz Philadelphia. As a musician, arts leader, and proud lifelong Philadelphia resident, I'm deeply concerned about how the defunding of the arts, Office of the Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy will impact our city. Funding for the arts is aligned with the administration's stated priorities in the proposed budget, which is keeping Philadelphians educated, healthy, and safe. And in my years of experience as a musician and educator, I've seen firsthand how the arts make students intellectually curious, keep adults emotionally healthy, and help to create neighborhoods that are not only safe, but vibrant. Now's the time to invest in the arts. We need more art, not less. If we want our city's youth to be better educated, invest in the arts. You'll be investing in better academic students who have lower dropout rates and higher SAT scores. And we need more art, not less, because if we want our cities to be healthy, we need to invest in the arts, because after battling a pandemic in fear and isolation, people will need the arts to restore their emotional well-being. If we want a safe city, invest in the arts, because the arts give voice to the voiceless. A new generation has grown impatient with our institutions' capacity to hear them. The arts are a constructive medium of self-expression. We need more art, not less. And if you think about the investment in the arts, consider the return on that investment. The arts have a $4.1 billion impact in the greater Philadelphia region, touching restaurants, hospitality, tourism, all a great contributor to our great area. Meanwhile, other cities continue to invest in the arts even as they grapple with the same crises and shrinking revenue. Boston, Nashville, San Antonio, Atlanta, Houston remain committed to the arts. And even when there are budget cuts, there is not another major city that has completely defunded its arts and culture office. In fact, Boston has increased its arts funding by 11%. We need more art, not less. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony and your contribution to the Philadelphia entertainment scene. Thank you.
Are Terry Fox or Mark Harrell on the line? Okay, next up there are three people: Brenda Harris, Arnetta Reddy, and Abriana Morgan. Folks, if folks could please remember to press *6 to unmute themselves. Brenda Harris, Arnetta Reddy, and Abriana Morgan. Brenda Harris.
Fox? Hello?
Hello? Hi.
Hello, this is Terry Fox.
Hi, just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, this is Terry Fox. Terry Fox, hello?
Yes, just proceed with your testimony.
Hello. Terry Fox? Hello?
Yes?
Hello?
Do you hear us?
Yes, I can. Okay. This is Sherry Fox, and I'm speaking in reference to bills 200, 287, 200, 307. A fuller statement from the dance community has been sent to the mayor and council. It has been said that a budget is a moral document, and where cities invest their money speaks to their values. Today, as a member of the Philly dance community, I'm asking you to fully fund the Philadelphia Cultural Fund and your appropriations for next year. I speak on behalf of a diverse and vital dance artist community, hundreds of people who live and work in your neighborhoods. We're performers, choreographers, educators, writers, administrators, and presenters. We understand all too well that the city is in crisis. We teach in public schools. We know firsthand the difficulty of finding affordable housing and workspaces, along with other disparity issues of urban life. So we're letting you know who we are and what we contribute to the city. We collaborate with institutions. We perform in studios, theaters, museums, churches, on the streets, in the parks, prisons, at historic sites, community and senior centers, and online. There's a lot to see. There's hip-hop, ballet, tap, modern, postmodern, praise dance, capoeira, flamenco, African, traditional dance from Cambodia, and Mexico, to name a few. There's social dance for people of any level to participate in. Our dance community includes aerial and circus artists. It includes therapists who provide dance and movement therapy to Philadelphians from all walks of life. Dance artists work with disabled and special needs populations. We have expertise in a whole host of other health and wellness skills. In this moment of pandemic health crisis and social upheaval caused by systemic racism, is a moment that offers us a chance to consider a change for the future. We implore you, don't give $14 million to improve safe policing, invest in the arts. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Mark Harrell and Brenda Harris, are you available? Next up, Arnetta Reddy. Aubriana Morgan. Please do not forget to unmute yourselves. You can press *6 to unmute yourself.
Mr. Goy, read those names one more time.
Yes, Council President.
Hi, this is Aubriana Morgan. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Please state your name for the record. Proceed with your testimony.
My name is Aubriana Morgan. I am an organizer with Reclaim Philadelphia. Prior to COVID-19 pandemic, Philadelphia was experiencing another public health crisis, gun violence. Last year, Mayor Kenney released the Roadmap to Safer Communities, a plan to address gun violence that includes investments in community programs and services that prevent violence and reduce recidivism. While the plan is very comprehensive, recent developments from the mayor's office give us reason to believe healing and safety are no longer a priority. In the revised budget proposal and revised 5-year plan, there is an emphasis on surveillance technology and the hiring of more police officers. While the very programs Mayor Kenney and several council members identify as real solutions to disrupt cycles of poverty and violence are being defunded. Our vision for public safety cannot center on policing and technologies with racially biased algorithms that decide who is and isn't dangerous. Programs like the PPD's Operation Pinpoint. When this city is struggling to meet the needs of most communities during a global health pandemic, giving over $760 million to the police department is like a slap in the face to all the organizers who have been doing mutual aid work in response to COVID and the organizations that have been serving our communities long before COVID-19. Too many people do not have enough food. Too many people don't know about the eviction moratorium, and their landlords are capitalizing on this lack of information and carrying out illegal evictions. Too many families are struggling to keep their children connected to schools and educational materials because they don't have access to the internet at home. Too many people who are essential workers haven't had any PPE provided to them so they can safely do their jobs. And this is only scratching the surface of the needs we're seeing for mutual aid work. We deserve more. We are asking that City Council not just
stop at the $14 million budget increase for a police department, but actually reduce their budget. And we're asking that you take $120 million back from the police budget. And that $120 million is what Mayor Kenny has put into the police department since he's been in office. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Brenda Harris. Arnetta Reddy. The next three names are Zakia Sharif, Annie Fortenberry, and Jamila Medley. Please unmute yourself as soon as the person before you is completed their testimony. Star 6 is an unmute. Next up is Zakia Sharif.
Good afternoon, council members and council president. My name is Zakia Sharif. I live in the 12th Police District. I'm a mother, a homeowner, and a taxpayer. The greatest of these things that I am is a homeowner in Southwest Philadelphia. I am North Philadelphia born and raised, and the first member of my family to be a homeowner. Today we are here to discuss budget planning. It has been brought to my attention Council is considering cutting various programs and the funding for various programs that are vital to my community. And we're considering increasing the budget for law enforcement. This angers me. I do not understand how this is even being considered. While I'm glad to see that Council and the Mayor have decided to remove the proposal for an increase in law enforcement budget, I really would love to see Council fund more social service programs in my community and for the city to defund the Philadelphia Police Department. It's almost as Council has a plan for our communities to fail. Your only resource of help for citizens of Philadelphia is to police us. I can remember a time when I myself was struggling with a teenage son, and my last resource was to dial 911. A young white officer was dispatched to my home, and after listening to my issues, he laughed at my family's pain. Hope was devastated and demolished. So in the spirit of first strike, I would like to share 3 instances where our Philadelphia Police Department has failed us. My first example would be my very own cousin who was murdered by Philadelphia police in 1978 while being handcuffed on the ground by Officer Peter Organsky. My second instance would be the horrific. I just am asking Council to please defund the Philadelphia Police Department and please fund social service programs in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Annie Fortenberry. Jamila Medley.
Hi, this is Jamila Medley. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed with your testimony. Hello? Hello?
Hello, this is Jamila. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jamila Medley, and I am the Executive Director of the Philadelphia Area Cooperative Alliance, otherwise known as PACA. And for the record, PACA does oppose Bill number 200-287. PACA aims to improve the lives of people in the Philadelphia region by growing the cooperative economy. We do this work to repair the impact of centuries of racial and economic injustice. For the last 2 years, each year the city of Philadelphia has allocated $75,000 to PACA in support of cooperative business development. And these initial investments have produced numerous outcomes, including new co-op businesses and shared learning with leaders in the Commerce Department and other institutions in the city about how to include cooperative business development in equitable and resilient economic and community development strategies. Please do not pass a budget that includes funding for the police department while cutting funds to homeless services in the Commerce Department, providing $0 to arts and culture, and making cuts to public health while we endure a global health pandemic impacting Black people disproportionately.
This is a formula that perpetuates the exploitation and decided neglect of those that suffer the most. PACA supports co-op businesses that center values of equity, solidarity, and care. All over the city, especially since the pandemic started, residents have participated in and witnessed radical acts of community care through mutual aid and cooperative economic practices. Philadelphia needs to leverage this moment by investing in growing opportunities for community control and ownership of assets and wealth-generating opportunities. Only with sound economic justice, policies, and investments can we grapple effectively with the racial injustice plaguing our city. And to garner trust in our city's officials, the budget process must be transparent, participatory, and democratic. These are cooperative ways of equalizing our city and creating equity where there is none or very little. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hello?
Yes. Please.
Brenda Harris.
Please proceed with your testimony.
Yes. Hello, my name is Brenda Harris. I am testifying in the city of my life. I've seen this and police officers just sitting around and the police will pull over or stop for no reason. $14 million is a lot of money for the police administrator. Not do I think they should get a $14 million increase, but we need to really decrease their budget even further. I think resources shared of the police budget should be shared throughout the community. Beyond stopping their budget from being increased, we can decrease their budget. And additionally, more can be used for schooling, playground, recreation centers to learn dance, arts, and etc. Things like that. If we start with the youth, now maybe they want to come back in their communities years later and keep the cycle going. That could be a better society for everybody. I call on Philadelphia City Council to reject the $14 million increase and go even further to decrease the Philadelphia Police Department overall. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
The next three speakers are Bridget Powell, Amanda Lore, and Amr Shahada. If folks could be ready to unmute themselves after the speaker preceding them, reminding them that *6 is how you unmute yourself. Next up is Bridget Powell.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes. You ready?
This
Hello?
is Annie Fort Embury. Can you hear me?
Yes. Please proceed.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Annie Fort Embury. My purpose today is to provide public comment referencing Bill number 200287 and the proposed $14 million police budget increase, which would total $760 million for the fiscal year, already increased by $190 million in the past decade. I would like to note the proposed school budget is only $252 million. This means the police budget is $508 million more than the proposed school budget. That's 3 times more. It's $577 million more than the proposed public and behavioral health budget, $675 million more than the public transit subsidy, $598 million more than the human services budget, and $7.5 million more than the Office of Community Empowerment. Furthermore, the free library budget is proposed to decrease by $6 million. Office of Homeless Services is proposed to decrease by almost $13 million. And Office of Children and Family Services is proposed to decrease by almost $45 million. We are not foolish. When we look at cities, we follow the dollar. And it is clear that with this budget, the city does not value us. We all know that when a police officer murders a civilian, it's not the first time the city has failed to protect and serve that person's right to life. The school system, the public health system, and the Office of Human Services has already failed them. The Los Angeles mayor announced a commitment to defund police. City Council in Minneapolis plans to disband their police and replace it with proven community-led public safety. Philly already has working examples of this, such as North Philly Peace Park. Defunding the police budget is possible. I respectfully request that you reflect on why thousands of Philadelphians have taken to the streets, hundreds of thousands are making calls and signing petitions, and millions have lost or never had faith in the police's ability or commitment to protect and serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't like to correct individuals that are testifying, but I must correct with respect to the school budget. The school budget is more than a $3 billion dollar budget, so it's significantly more than the police budget. But I just wanted to, for the record. Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Goy, next person.
Bridget Powell. Amanda Lorai.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hi, my name is Amanda Lorai. I grew up in Philadelphia. I left to go to college and to work in San Francisco, and I'm now back in Philadelphia to stay, currently as a Temple Law student. I was horrified to see video of the beating of a fellow Temple student by Philadelphia police. We need to cut the police budget by at least $120 million, the amount the budget has grown during the Kennedy administration. We should allocate those resources to first responders who are trained at nonviolent de-escalation and mental health intervention, public transit, affordable housing, the arts, homeless and addiction services, and relief for those affected by COVID-19. I want to remain in Philadelphia to live and work, but I can't make my future here if Philadelphia attempts to solve the problems created by disinvestment in the people of the city by violent policing instead of care and support. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Amr Shahada.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes, we can. Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amr Shahada. I'm testifying today regarding Bill 200-287, 200-307, to strongly encourage you to restore $200,000 for Pennsylvania Immigrant Family Unit Project, or PAIFUP, in the series FY2021 Budget. PAIFUP is Philadelphia's program that provides free lawyers for people in immigration detention. I am from Egypt. I came to the United States when I was 19 to study, with high hopes of providing a better future for myself and my family. I'm here today to tell my story, to stress how important it is that detained immigrants have access to free legal representation. My first few years in this country were very difficult. I was unable to find employment and couldn't afford my tuition. I filled out student studies and I was arrested by ICE for violation of the condition of my studies visa. They sent me to immigration detention in York, Pennsylvania. I was scared, exhausted, and desperate for help. I didn't understand the system. After finding an attorney, I was able to fight my asylum case with an advocate at my side. Now I'm home in Philadelphia with hope for the future. Everyone deserves to have a lawyer fighting with them when they are facing deportation. I met many other immigrants in detention who were deported because they couldn't afford a lawyer. They all deserve to have a fighting chance. The city should continue to support that chance for people like me by funding PAIFUP in the budget. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
You're welcome.
The next three on the list are Astari Aliaj, Brandon Boucher, and Betsy Okrent. If folks could be ready to unmute themselves after the preceding speaker, Astari Aliaj is first up. Astari Aliaj.
Hello.
Hi. How are you? Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Asteria, I'm here to talk about defunding the police budget. I do agree with the $120 million decrease, as other people have stated, but I also think that we should completely eradicate the police force and do so over the next 5 years. I have lived and worked, and I have experienced Philly. I have been a student here. I have learned in the crowded classrooms. I've seen the excess disciplinary actions. I've seen the poor nutrition options. I've seen the food apartheid. I've seen the underfunding of teachers. I've seen how low they paid and how much work they put into it. I've seen the gentrification happening in my city. I've seen how redlining has impacted us. I've seen the working class and small businesses
having been driven out. We need to increase loans. We need to increase funding for small businesses. We need to construct urban farms, and not just for photo ops to increase property value. The police do not need to be as big and as funded as they are. We have essentially given social workers guns, and they are not enough, and they are not doing their job successfully. Please consider this. Please consider this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Brandon Boucher.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Let's state your name for the record.
Okay, wonderful.
Proceed with your testimony.
Awesome. My name is Brandon Boucher. Thank you all for having me here today. I'd like to speak to the slated $19.1 million increase for the Philadelphia Police Department amidst massive cuts to vital city services in the middle of a global pandemic and economic recession. I'd like to advocate for defunding the Philadelphia Police Department by at least $120 million. At a time when we're facing an unprecedented health crisis, it is public endangerment to propose an $8.26 million decrease of public health services. I disagree with the budget's proposal seeking to cut the city's anti-violence initiatives by 21%. How can we expect police to fill that gap when in 2019, there were only 27 days in America where police didn't kill somebody, and when those murder rates disproportionately affect communities of color? If we want to reduce crime and violence in our communities, we need to be investing in these communities' well-being and not policing them. We should not be seeing a 21% decrease in homeless services during a pandemic where homeless people are at higher risk and an economic recession where people are at risk of homelessness due to layoffs and unemployment. We should not be seeing a $25.5 million cut in education services when there's a 5-year deficit projection of $1 billion for our public schools. These schools and our students are our future. Philadelphia's culture and arts are part of what make the city as great as it is, and yet in spite of the evidence showing that participation in arts programs reduces crime rates, this budget is seeking to cut our arts and culture programs by 100%. That is a disservice to the city's legacy and its people. The budget needs to be revised to provide financial protection for essential workers, as well as the body of working people in Philadelphia that make this city possible. This includes expanding employment opportunities and protections for at-risk individuals. We cannot expect policing to resolve complex social issues that police are clearly not trained to address. We must immediately implement new public safety measures. We cannot arrest our way out of problems. A study by USA Today showed that increasing police department size does not effectively reduce crime. Instead, we need to utilize city funds to ensure material security, education, proper mental health, and anti-violence resources in our communities, especially those most affected by poverty. When we can build trust and well-being among people in the city, we guarantee safety and opportunity for all. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your testimony.
Betsy O'Krent. Betsy O'Krent. Carolina Downey. Carolina Downey. Please remember.
Can you hear?
Yes, we hear you. Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, please.
My name is Carolina Downey, and I would like to address Bill number 200287. I was at the protest on June 1st when police tear gassed protesters and then lied about their reasons for doing so. I didn't see any officers serving or protecting that day. I saw militarized cowards violating the rights of unarmed citizens. The police force is, historically and by design, a brutal instrument of the state. It is not meant to serve or protect, but to hunt down and punish. Some people will tell you that the system is broken, but the system is operating exactly as it is meant to. It cannot continue and needs to be dismantled because policing and public safety are mutually exclusive. Policing cannot solve the problems such as mental illness, drug addiction, and homelessness that stem from the systematic economic disenfranchisement of Black Americans. And people who do face those issues should be able to ask for help without the threat of incarceration. As a taxpayer, it makes me sick that my money is directly funding the police brutality inflicted on my neighbors. We need to funnel resources away from the PPD and into initiatives that directly support our communities. One such example is our public health budget. While the police have a fully outfitted riot squad, healthcare workers have been reusing makeshift PPE for months during a pandemic that disproportionately affects Black Americans. Council members, I read your letter to the mayor, so when I talk about investing in communities, I know I am preaching to the choir. Please reject this budget, defund the PPD, and tax the rich. I urge you to create a budget that shows you care more about educating our youth and protecting our workers than arming the police to wage war against us. Create a 5-year plan to fully divest from the PPD, then divert those resources to community-led organizations and allow their distribution to be decided by citizens directly impacted by the criminal legal system, as per the Black Philly Radical Collective's list of demands. Black Lives Matter, and may George Floyd and all victims of police brutality rest in power. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your testimony.
Council President, the last person that we have on the line is Kempis Songster. If Kempis Songster can try to unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Hello? Am I coming through clearly?
No, you're fine. Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, council members in attendance of this extremely important meeting. My name is Kempis Songster. I am a formerly condemned child, or what is called a juvenile lifer, who is on parole for the rest of my life, to sentence to life without parole at the age of 15. I am here now as a result of recent rulings in the U.S. Supreme Court that forbid the sentencing of children to mandatory life without parole. I'm now the healing justice organizer of the Amistad Law Project, and more importantly, I'm a husband and now a father. In my over 30 years in prison, I was able to listen to and give analysis to the roots of violence in our cities, and the role of divestment from community needs plays in that. Now at 40 years old, with my son Karume, 18 months old today, asleep just a few feet away from me, I find myself concerned about things that I was not concerned about at 15. I want Karume to be infinitely better than I was. I want him to grow up in a city that doesn't stack the deck against children that look like him, and that doesn't make the already hard job of raising a baby to healthy and well-meaning adulthood next to impossible for parents. But news of Mayor Kenny's proposal to defund those things that children need to nurture full human development and maximize their potentials are all on the chopping block, and that worries me. I call to question the soundness of a logic and the sanity and the humanity of a budget that seeks to divest from public health in response to a public health crisis, one unlike anything any of us has experienced in our lifetime. This budget, which aims to put things that make a community healthy, strong, and conducive to producing peaceful people while boosting the capacity of the police to corral, cuff, cage, and kill, is potentially putting another generation of young people on an assembly line to prison and or the graveyard. This budget is a knee on the necks of black and brown communities in the city. I want to acknowledge the City Council's decision to say no to Mayor Kenny's proposal of $14 million to the police department, but I implore this City Council to go further and take the $120 million, which is the cumulative increase to the police department since Mayor Kenny's election to this office, and put that into the community needs necessary to producing healthy and peaceful people and reducing violent tendencies in our neighborhoods. Thank you. Defund the police.
Testimony. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Council President, that concludes this round of the list.
Thank you very much. We'll take a brief break as we queue up the next 20 individuals. Thank you.
Councilman Jones, we are now live.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We will begin public comment on the proposed bills. And can you please, I think Mr. Goy, read the first group of witnesses to testify.
Mr. Chairman, the first three names are Claire Evans, Caroline Voitsberger, and Joy Bullard Moore. If folks who are on that list can be ready to press star 6 to unmute themselves after the preceding testifier. The first on the list is Claire Evans.
Good evening. State your name for the record and please begin your testimony.
Claire Evans. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Philadelphia spends more on policing than any other department, and this is completely unreasonable for the services that police provide. The city needs to take serious steps to divest from police and work towards investing in community and culture. I'd like to ask to stop this budget increase and put the money back into departments that help the people, like the Department of Health, Homeless Services, Youth and Community Development, COVID-19 relief, and public infrastructure like libraries, community centers, and shelters. Putting this kind of massive funding that is currently being given to the PPD into mental health services, affordable housing, etc., would totally transform our need for the police. I encourage the city to consider moving in these directions. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your testimony and your patience.
Caroline Voitsberger. Caroline Voitsberger. Joy Bullard Moore. Joy Bullard Moore.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Joy Bullard Moore. Hi, my name is Joy Bullard Moore. I identify as a Black, queer, cisgender female. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I was born and raised in North Carolina, but I've lived in Philly for the last 12 years. My roots will forever remain connected down south, but at this point, and honestly for quite some time now, I've claimed Philly as my home. So I live in Philly, I work in Philly, go to school in Philly, and I volunteer in Philly, most recently with the Medical Reserve Corps' COVID-19 response to support the Department of Public Health. And, I feel very involved and engaged in the community as a Philadelphian. But sadly, when I see the budget proposed by Mayor Kinney, I have to admit that I have a bit of a Sojourner Truth moment, and I'm wondering, well, ain't I a Philadelphian? This budget claims to prioritize keeping Philadelphians safe, healthy, and educated. But please tell me, based on the numbers presented, how is health and education being promoted? And who exactly would feel safer when the police budget is being increased by $19.1 million when compared to the pre-COVID fiscal year 2021 budget proposal? Yet we're seeing significant cuts to the free library, parks and recreation, public health, homeless services, streets department, and the complete elimination of arts and culture. Who would feel safer? Not this Philadelphian, and by the looks of things, especially over the last week or so, I'm not alone. When you look at the numbers, approximately 45% of the staffing budget is focused on the criminal legal system, with the majority, 32.4%, solely for policing. By bolstering the staffing budget for the police, the message is clear and the priorities are clear. Let's maintain the status quo. But you know what? Philadelphians deserve better. Philadelphians deserve reform. Over-policing negatively impacts marginalized members of the community, and it contributes to the disparities that compromise our very health and well-being. It silences the voices that need to be amplified, it destroys families, and it kills us. We are crying out for reform and eventually abolishment because these systemic inequities present real life or death consequences for many of us. Please hear us when we declare that Black lives matter. So reform needs to involve defending Black lives by funding our community and defunding the police. Thankfully, at least 14 out of 17 city council members have heard our cry. But of course, this is only the beginning. I urge you to please take action to redistribute the wealth within the city and protect the very services that actually sustain our health and well-being. All of us are Philadelphians, and we all deserve to feel safe, especially the most marginalized and vulnerable within our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony and your patience.
Mr. Chairman, the next three names are Elliot Foster, Gavin Oswald, and Martha Williams. If folks could be ready to unmute themselves by pressing *6 after the preceding testifier. The first name on the list is Elliot Foster.
Good evening. Good evening.
Elliot Foster?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. State your name for the record and please begin your testimony.
My name is Elliot Foster. Today I'm not only testifying against that proposed $14 million budget increase for the Philadelphia Police Department, but I want to call for the defunding of the entire Philadelphia Police Department. The addition of new officers and equipment is only making officers look for the crime that they want to see. They're over-policing and arresting people for crimes that are not violent, and we have to stop the crime at the source. If you give someone a hammer, all they're going to look for is nails. The police force is the hammer, and the people of Philadelphia should not be the nails. Why do people commit crime? Because their needs are not being met. People all over Philadelphia, and this is disproportionately affecting Black Philadelphians, are homeless, specifically in Kensington, where over 1,000 people are homeless and another 5,000 people are simply in shelters or temporary housing. This is not acceptable. We need to be allocating those funds for the police department into things that actually affect people's lives and do not simply lock them up in jail where they are to be overexposed to COVID-19. It's just frankly unacceptable. And after seeing, I thank you. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you.
Gavin Oswald. Gavin Oswald. Martha Williams. Martha Williams. The next three names are James P. Austin, Jan Jurchak, and Kate D. Rienz. If folks could be ready to unmute themselves by pressing *6. The first up is James P. Austin.
Good evening.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is Martha Williams, and I'm busy saying hello. Were you not able to hear me?
No, we didn't.
Okay, I'm sorry, this is Martha Williams. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah. Please begin your testimony.
Thank you. The past days, we have seen protests in our city unlike anything we've seen in decades. Thousands upon thousands of people have poured into our streets and across our city demanding that our criminal legal system finally recognize and fully respect the humanity of all Black and brown communities. In the face of these demands, we have seen widespread brutality on the part of the Philadelphia Police Department. They have deployed military-grade weapons like tear gas deployed against our neighbors, family, friends, and communities. Because they had the audacity to demand that Black and brown people not be harassed, brutalized, and killed simply for existing. We have been able to see this because it has been widely documented, and because of the appalling footage has been widely broadcast to us in our state, our country, and even around our world. But most police violence and the related violence of the criminal legal system is not widely documented, and it won't make the nightly news. And it is perpetrated in our communities of color each and every day, in the streets, in the courtrooms, in the schools, in our jails, and prisons. When police stop and harass and assault Black people for simply existing, when prosecutors know or have good reason to believe police lie or acted corruptly during an investigation, but push forward to secure a conviction anyway. And when corrections officers brutalize those incarcerated in our jails, these injustices may not be on view for all of us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, on the news, but are on view to public defenders. And it is often only through public defenders that these injustices are exposed and addressed. It was the Defender Association that exposed the PPD's practices for targeting black drivers with stops and searches. It is with these acts in mind that we're asking that you strongly consider redirecting that money, plus to the Defender Association, who have been leading the way to do most of the work with the least amount of resources, and trying to protect due process, to connect with folks with community resource pre-entry programs such as Mothers in Charge, Frontline Dads, Why Not Prosper, and there are more others who service these black and brown communities of color. The same communities that the police took oaths to protect and serve. The community asks that you support us with this decision and the redirection of these funds, as we are all aware that Black Lives Matter, community engagement matters, and it will aid our ability to start healing and moving forward, and that is long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jan Jurchak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good evening.
All right. My name is Jan Jurchak. I'm an artist in South Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the greatest city in the world, and we do not need a police force. The police cannot be reformed. They must be defunded and abolished, following Minneapolis's lead. The police budget needs to be immediately redirected into community control, mutual aid, healthcare, fresh food, and education. We need PPE and permanent hazard pay for sanitation workers. Where I am in South Philly, trash has been picked up irregularly since COVID hit. Our sanitation workers keep the city going and should be making much more money than the pigs who do nothing to keep us safe. We need rent relief for Philadelphians. Of the 13,000 people who applied for rental assistance, the city was only able to help 4,000. We need to repeal the 10-year tax abatement, which favors the wealthy and promotes gentrification and destruction of black and brown neighborhoods. We need to provide support for our homeless neighbors, not cut funding for homeless programs. There are empty hotels all over the city, and yet nothing has been done to provide housing for the homeless. Housing is a human right, and the health of any one of us is the health of us all. Instead of eviscerating arts and culture funding, we need to invest in creative thinking for the future of Philadelphia and for our planet. We need a Green New Deal jobs bill to employ everyone who has lost work due to COVID. We need to invest in sustainable energy instead of paying for jet fuel so helicopters can drop tear gas on our people. Where are our priorities when financial relief and healthcare were nowhere to be found for months during a pandemic, but military forces were mobilized with frightening speed when people took to the streets to make their voices heard? Police are grossly overfunded in their expensive riot gear and won't even wear face masks. We need investment in our community's health and well-being, not in weapons to be used against us. Council members and politicians at large, you must decide to align yourselves with the people by committing to police and prison abolition, Black liberation, and the creation of new jobs for an ecologically sustainable future. Current political order has failed beyond the point of reconstitution. There can be no committee, reform, or process of law that will adequately address the issues of survival posed in the streets by hundreds of thousands of Philadelphians. We need to invest in communities and abolish the police. If you are not acting so radically that you are putting your own political careers at stake, you are simply not doing enough. We need to disarm, dismantle, and abolish the police and end all carceral systems, including ICE, immediately. Mayor Kenny is a bootlicker. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Mr. Chairman, the next three speakers are Kate D. Rienz, Kristen B. Cummings, and Kate Seltzer. If folks could just remember to be ready to unmute themselves before the preceding speaker ends. Kate D. Rienz.
Good evening, and
hello.
Good evening. State your name and begin.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Kate Durienzi, and I'm advocating to defund and abolish the PPD and invest in a new anti-racist public safety program in Philadelphia. The council's letter calling for police reform is a good step, but will not ensure public safety for all. Niall Harris, a resident of Southwest Philadelphia, speaks of the police force as a means to protect the institution of slavery from its creation to present day. She says the police force began as community militias and slave patrols, which consisted of white men who were meant to keep slaves in line. This history is reflected and continues in the statistics of police violence against black bodies in low-income neighborhoods tracked over the last 400 years. Police presence in minority and specifically black neighborhoods is a reflection of that history. If we want to make progress, we need to change practices. Reallocating funds from the police towards healthcare, education, and housing in low-income areas would be proof that the government is interested in working towards progress. This would be a first step, end quote. Through this dangerous proposed police budget increase, Mayor Kenney has made his budgetary priorities clear. What about the PPD? Where is the $741 million that the PPD already has going? An idea. A large portion of the PPD's budget must be going to police unions, which work to make accountability impossible. Yes, the number of police shootings has decreased in recent years, but the PPD may be killing less black people, but they're still getting away with it every single time. According to the PPD's own website, in all of the history of Philly, there are literally no records of a Philadelphia police officer being held accountable for shooting a black person. There are no consequences. Accountability is not a priority of the PPD and never will be. They have and will continue to protect their own. If the priorities of the PPD had changed in any way, they would not be asking for more money. They would volunteer to reallocate union funds towards reform programs. The Philadelphia government has been consistently increasing the police budget since 2016. Throwing money at cops does not lower crime rates, and it does not protect black Philadelphians. At protests, the PPD is terrorizing Philadelphians as we plead for actual public safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony.
Kristen B. Cummings.
Good evening.
Kristen B. Cummings. I believe you're on the line. If you could just unmute yourself by pressing *6. Kate Seltzer.
Hi.
Kate.
Good evening. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Kate Seltzer.
Please begin your testimony.
Hi, my name is Kate Seltzer. The proposal to add millions of dollars to the police budget is appalling. At the very least, I demand that their budget stay the same, and I request that their budget be slashed because, as we can see, abolition is the future. It is not a matter of if it will happen, but when. I propose that this money, especially the money allotted for weaponry, clothing allowance, and maintenance, and vague other funds, be reallocated to community centers and libraries, early childhood education, prenatal care, transportation subsidies, and mental health outreach and programming. Many Philly-based nonprofits, such as the Maternity Care Coalition, are already doing hugely impactful work in these areas. This funding could go towards following in their footsteps, partnering with nonprofits, and bettering the city's ability to protect its citizens from poverty, poor health, poor education, and programming. We do not need to reinvent the wheel. The programming is out there. Mental health programming and care would be a fantastic use of police funding because instead of arresting those having an episode of their mental illness, the city of Philadelphia could take care of its citizens. Mentally ill people are disproportionately reported to 911 and subsequently killed or arrested when there are other services to call who would be able to help them. Mentally ill people are also disproportionately targeted by mass incarceration. The programs I have suggested would allow low-income citizens of Philadelphia to access better care for their problems and develop the skills to be self-sufficient because the government would not be reallocating all of the resources that they need to the police. I also propose a medical presence within the criminal justice system to ensure that those arrested or imprisoned receive the medical attention that they need. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for your testimony.
One last time, is Kristen B. Cummings on the line? The next three speakers are Daniel Kennedy, Matt Scheuerman, and Michael McKee. Is Daniel Kennedy on the line? Daniel Kennedy. Matt Scheuerman. Matt Scheuerman. Please remember to unmute yourself by pressing *6. Michael McKee. Michael
Hello?
McKee.
Hello. Yes,
Hello.
hi. My name is Mike. Hi, my name is Michael McKee, and I'm the Director of Reentry Services at Broad Street Ministry. And I was hoping to testify to address Bill 2002.
Please begin your testimony.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear
Hi,
me?
my name is Michael. I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
My name is Michael McKee, and I'm the Director of Reentry Services at Broad Street Ministry. I was calling to address Bill 200287. Like many others, I'm concerned that this bill over-prioritizes police and prisons, which already sites on a disproportionate percentage of our resources, despite it being clearer than ever before that 9 times out of 10 they're the wrong tool for the job. We have a moral, civic, and fiscal responsibility to dramatically reduce the budget of the police department and divert that money permanently to vital services improving public health and safety. I'm proud of Broad Street Ministry's collaborations with the city, such as Step Up to the Plate, now providing free meals at 7 locations. But it is a scandal that faith-based nonprofits are hustling to fill in the gaps. At our center city alone, we serve 400 folks a day because of poverty, food insecurity, homelessness, and barriers to sustainable employment and medical and mental health treatment. Since COVID-19, many of our guests tell us this is their only meal of the day. So when I read this budget, I wonder who will still be around for our case managers to call when someone needs shelter, rehab, or community college. The fact that our safety nets require safety nets tells us all we need to know about where we need to put our money. I want to acknowledge the debt today's conversation owes to the Black Lives Matter movement and those who emphasize that we can't intimidate or arrest our way out of social problems. We need policies that uplift, create opportunities, and restore relationships for survivors of the legal system as both defendants as well as complainants. The PPD, as we know it today, will never be a substitute for a peer specialist, a social worker, a conflict mediator, a youth arts program, a librarian, a teacher, a public defender, or a neighbor. Also, I'm already sweating. Can we open up some public schools? The police, by definition, can't be positive leaders in communities outside their own. So why don't we increase funding for the people who are? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next 3 are Naida Bajwa, Oksana Ivachkenko, and Patrick St. Angelo.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can.
Oh, this is Matthew Shorman. I'm sorry. I was in the last group.
Okay. You can begin your testimony. State your name again and begin your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Schuerman, and I would like to speak in reference to Bill number 200287. Just today, Mayor Kenny agreed to listen to Philadelphians and not increase the police budget by $14 million. This is a good step, but I propose defunding the police an additional $120 million, which is the amount Mayor Kenny has increased since he's been in office. I advocate for further major cuts to the funding of police in an effort towards its full abolition. This enormous amount of police money could be more aptly allocated to services that are essential for communities to thrive, like public health, schools, public defenders, homeless services, parks and rec, streets and sanitation, the arts, libraries, youth programs, and community-based anti-violence programs. As worldwide protests against the racist institution of the police have shown, it is clear that people are willing to step up and to protect and provide for their families, friends, and communities. Whether it be crowdsourcing bail funds, funding local chapters of Black Lives Matter, providing food and water to the most vulnerable, volunteering legal aid, medical relief, offering housing, providing mental health resources, the list goes on. We don't need violent police to deal with issues caused by poverty, mental health challenges, homelessness, and drug addiction. We need to resource families, specialists, and communities to deal with these issues. We've exhausted too many resources dealing with the trauma and terror that the police instill in our communities. We need to spend those resources and time experiencing and expounding upon all the ways our community provides for, educates, cultivates, celebrates, and trusts one another. We tear down statues of racist clowns like Frank Rizzo as a symbolic and literal commitment to our oppressed communities, that we are willing to have the courage to change what is wrong and invest in what is right. What is right is investing in communities, not the police. The needless, violent cycle of poverty and incarceration needs to stop. Invest in the people so that our city can finally be one of equity, justice, and peace. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Patrick St. Angelo.
Hi,
Pat?
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi.
Hello. You can state your name and begin your testimony.
Sure. My name is Patrick St. Angelo. Good afternoon, City Council Budget Office of Philadelphia. Thank you for taking the time to listen to your fellow neighbors this afternoon in regard to the FY2021 budget for the City of Philadelphia. Police brutality has been an ongoing issue in our community and many others across the country, and it has only become more clear of an issue over the past couple of weeks following protests. That is why I'm speaking out today to urge the city to rethink the budget for FY2021 and defund the police and instead redistribute the funds within our community. Some ideas on where and how to invest the budget instead are as follows. 1, education and libraries. 2, environment. For example, vacant lots can be transformed into community gardens, and our city could be centered around sustainable agriculture and food education. This can prevent fellow neighbors from going hungry. 3, homeless services. 4, public health. This includes harm reduction and treatment for people who use drugs. 5, mental health funding. 6, arts and culture. 7, libraries, rec centers, child care, and community centers. 8, streets department and infrastructure. 9, immigration defense. And 10, public defense. All of these suggestions can help make our communities and cities more equal, safe, sustainable, healthy, and creative. In addition, I urge the city to reschedule the police budget hearing, schedule additional public testimony for the FY2021 budget in order for people to speak on police brutality and why defunding the police is necessary to better our communities. And I encourage the city to meet with leaders fighting at the front lines for police accountability in the city of Philadelphia. Lastly, the city has not gone after taxation enough in certain cases like Penn, Drexel, and Independence Blue Cross paying pilots, which is making payments in lieu of taxes. These organizations should be paying property taxes to the city of Philadelphia. Please consider all these points and please help to create a more fair and just Philadelphia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rabbi Linda Holtzman.
Good evening.
Elizabeth Forden. Mr. Chairman, the last 3 speakers are Rosalie Wetzel, Sarah Moran, and Veena Bhagadvathi. Rosalie Wetzel, please continue.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. Hi, this is Rosalie. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to strongly oppose the cutting of funds to our essential health, art, homelessness, and parks and rec programs. Cultural, economic, environmental, and social impacts are the 4 key essential elements to community health and sustainability. Prioritizing putting more weaponized people on the streets to attack the symptoms of our injustice is counterintuitive. I urge you to cut the PPD budget by a minimum of $120 million and invest the savings in Black communities that have suffered from systemic oppression for centuries. Councilman O'Neill, and Hennon, we know that you did not initially disagree with the original budget, and that is deeply concerning to many. I am glad to see that today Mayor Kenney has revoked the initial budget increase. However, it's not enough. This is a structure built on systemic racism that this country created intentionally and now needs to dismantle intentionally and replace with one that takes into account the needs of the people that it actually serves. Defunding the police is about moving away from the narrow conception of public safety that relies on punishment and investing in a community's actual safety net. We need to reallocate these funds towards the basic necessities that have been withheld from Black communities for generations. Affordable housing, quality public education, fair and dignified work, and anti-violence programs. And it means taking inventory on who in the city is paying their fair share and then pursuing policy changes that address that disparity. If we tax corporations and the ultra-wealthy, who are the real looters of our community, Philly can avoid painful cuts to the jobs and services working-class people need. Increasing the gross receipts tax and reinstating the personal property tax could raise at least $100 million next year alone. Our schools are already massively underfunded, lack counselors and nurses, and carry toxins that put our children at risk, yet millions of our funds go to the police we don't even trust. We overwhelmingly want public funds to enrich our neighborhoods and not the police. I believe that the most just and effective way to support Philadelphia's recovery is to pass progressive tax measures so that corporations and the ultra-wealthy are required to pay their fair share instead of balancing the city's budget on the backs of working Philadelphians, as well as in defunding the police and reallocating those funds back into the very areas we are about to cut immensely. Philly is the birthplace of American democracy, and it's important that we make bold changes and lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Sarah Moran. Sarah Moran, if you're on the line, please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Sarah Moran.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Sarah Moran. I live in Philadelphia. I am testifying today to denounce the proposed budget, which allocates millions to a police force that does more harm than good. The police as an institution are inherently harmful to Black and brown people and was created to dominate and criminalize communities of color. Crime in Philadelphia isn't random. Most of the time it happens when someone has been unable to meet their basic needs through other means. We don't need the PPD to fight crime. We need more community centers, mental health resources, and educational opportunities. I'm calling for funds to be redirected away from the PPD and into the following city services: public housing, education, sanitation, fire departments, parks, pools, street repair, senior care, transportation, arts and culture, libraries, tax relief, child care, and youth programs. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Mr. Chairman, the final speaker is Veena Bhagavathi.
Good evening.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. My name is Veena Bhagavathi. So firstly, I want to thank the City Council members who have already expressed their opposition to the proposed budget changes. I'm testifying because I was strongly opposed to the proposed $14 million budget increase to the Philadelphia Police Department. Given Mayor Kenny's latest response today, I also want to take this opportunity to direct the conversation towards abolition rather than reform. Any sort of budget increase, even in the name of reform, will come at the direct expense of social services that are critical for supporting Philadelphians, especially in a time of such uncertainty. In this vein, and as a side note, I also urge you to pursue pilots from quote-unquote nonprofits such as my alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania, and other similar large nonprofits who have evaded investing in this community for years. There is significant evidence nationwide that increasing police presence does not lead to a decrease in crime. In Philadelphia, we've seen police budgets increase while the rates of violent crime have increased just as steadily, and clearance rates for homicide cases have actually dropped. I urge you to recognize how much crime results from systemic problems such as hunger or lack of mental health resources and reallocate this money to address those issues instead. The coronavirus pandemic has dealt a severe blow to our economy. While many Philadelphians struggle to pay rent, this budget cuts funding for programs ranging from the Philadelphia Rental Assist to the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Program. City Councilwoman Helen Jim said that being unable to make rental payments right now is the quote-unquote top issue facing Philadelphians at this moment. As such, I believe that any further revisions to the budget should reflect the needs of the city in this moment and the needs of its most vulnerable populations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Goy.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we are ready to recess until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow on Microsoft Teams.
Okay, I will then do the formal. There being no one else to testify, this committee will stand at recess.
Mr. Chairman, before we close, can I be recognized real quick? This is Councilmember Thomas.
I'd be honored to. I didn't know you were there, Councilmember. Please proceed.
Yeah, before we close out, I just want to thank all the people who testified. I know if everybody who testified listened to everyone else who testified, but I just want the public to know that City Council is listening. We did hear what they said. We do take it into account. I don't want folks to think what they said fell on deaf ears, and I know myself and you and other members of council have been here listening the entire time, and I appreciate their testimony. I just wanted to put that on the record before we close it out, so folks know, because it's virtual, so they can't, I know it's a little difficult to tell and look us in the face besides, you. So I just wanted to put that out there and let folks know we appreciate them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Member Thomas.
Thank you, too. Mr. Chair, this is Councilman Squilla. I want to hear what my colleague has said, and
appreciate your efforts today. I know it was a long day, and to all the people who testified, and to know that their voices were heard. Thank you.
Are there any other members on the line that I don't know about?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair?
Member Gilmore?
Yes, this is Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, just chiming in to echo the sentiments of my colleagues and thanking all of the testifiers this afternoon for their public comment. We appreciate all of their work. We'll be advocating on their behalf. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman. This is Councilmember Derek Green.
Member Green.
As well, also enjoyed looking at the Buffalo Soldier behind you as you were able to chair today's hearing. I enjoyed hearing the commentary from the various members of the public. I've also been going through my various emails at the same time, trying to multitask. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Green. Are there any others?
This is Councilmember Gaudier. I'm just letting you know I'm still here too, and I appreciate the testimony. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for proceeding over this.
Thank you for staying with me.
Absolutely. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. Councilwoman Parker wanted to add my special thanks to you. The hour is late, but the residents of Philadelphia have been patient. And also want to say a special thanks to all of my colleagues. Our ears have been opening, and we are listening.
Wow.
Councilman Jones?
Yes.
This is Councilwoman Bass. I want to thank
Councilwoman Bass.
I want to thank you for a job well done. It's been a long day, and you at the helm, you've done a great job. So I just wanted to thank you, and I wanted to also thank everyone who testified and listening to all of the testimony. It's eye-opening, enlightening, important information. And so I just want to thank everyone who took the time out to testify and make sure that the voices of the people of Philadelphia were heard. And it's a great day in Philadelphia today. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Member Bass, I would agree.
Thank you, Councilman.
Is there any other member on the line?
This is
Sanchez. I want to thank my colleagues and everyone. I know for the folks who come and testify, they prepare, they're talking from their hearts. They're Philadelphians who love the city of Philadelphia like we do. And we have some tough choices from some tougher decisions to make, and their testimony helped shape and remind us of why we have the honor to serve them. And I'm happy to be part of a body who respects that. And I have all the confidence in the world that by June 25th, we're going to give folks a budget that reflects the reality of us having heard them and what they're asking for. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Sanchez.
Councilman Jones.
Yes,
it's Alan Dom. I just want to say thank you and echo the sentiments of all my colleagues, and thank you for your work and sharing this. And hope everyone has a nice evening.
Thank you, Member Dom. I'm going to wait and see if I hear anybody. Hearing none, this committee will stand at recess until Wednesday, June 10th, 2020 at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
You as well.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Take care. Be safe.